Services are delivered from a housing-first approach. Our focus
thank you for your service. And Major General Lou McKenzie, as I always say, Major General doesn't need any introduction. I think everyone knows what a great hero you've been for our country, and thank you both for your service. And it's great to be back here in beautiful Ottawa with my all-star Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture and Industries, Lisa MacLeod. I can tell you, my friends, I always say it, one of the hardest working members down at Queen's Park, bar none. What are you up to, about 15 ministries that you're taking care of now? Wearing many hats, and Lisa's doing an incredible job. This year, we mark the 75th anniversary of the end of Second World War. And with November the 11th just around the corner, this is a time to remember those who fought to preserve peace and freedom. Recognize those who continue to defend it, and honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Here in Canada, we have a few traditions when it comes to November 11th. In the week of November 11th, we wear a poppy, and we wear a poppy, being very proud of wearing that. And after hearing what I heard this morning from Whole Foods, the policy that they introduced, that they won't allow any employee to wear a poppy, I find it absolutely disgraceful. I find it disgusting. So we're going to introduce legislation immediately that permits any employee, no matter where you work, and to wear a poppy, and making sure that no employer can force someone not to wear a poppy. We also observe a moment of silence. We remember our grandparents, a relative who did their part. And today we find yet another way to support our veterans through the power of support and friendly competition among peers. I'm proud to announce the first ever Valor Games, which will be held right here in Ottawa. And I thank everyone that's involved. And I know, again, Minister, you're the #1 cheerleader. You make things happen. The Games will attract veterans and active service members of all abilities from across Canada to compete as athletes. Our government is investing $3 million to help make these Games a reality. We're giving back to those who gave so much to secure the future of this country and this province. Minister MacLeod will share more details in just a moment, but I do want to take this opportunity to thank every single veteran, member of the military, reservist, and cadet for their outstanding service. I want to thank the Canadian Armed Forces who came to our aid when the first wave of COVID-19 hit us here in Ontario. And who did we call for support in our long-term care? But the best armed forces in the entire world, our Canadian Armed Forces, went in there, and I described it as the cavalry coming over the top of the hill to come to our rescue, and we'll never forget that, and we'll always be grateful. We owe all of you and your families a debt of gratitude. And I have no doubt the Valor Games will be a huge, huge success. And I can't wait to be here to open the games with you and the other folks, Minister. I just want to say thank you. God bless our veterans, and God bless the people of Ontario. Now I'll hand it over to Minister MacLeod.
Thank you very much, Premier, and I think I speak on behalf of all Ontarians in saying how proud we are that you took the stand today in supporting our men and women in uniform and those who have served and gone before us by taking on Whole Foods right here in Ottawa. Obviously, we wear our poppy with pride. We mark our moment of silence on Remembrance Week, and this particular announcement today, this $3 million announcement for the Valor Games, the spawn of the Invictus Games, is incredibly important and very positive. It's wonderful to be here with my good friend, Lou McKenzie. We've been friends for many years, and he has guided me and on many occasions, and I'm delighted that he's here today, and I'm delighted that we recently appointed him to the Honours and Awards Secretariat in the Ministry. I'm also here with Mike Trana, who has served our country both in Bosnia as well as in Afghanistan, and he has been a competitor in Invictus Games, and he is an elite athlete in para-canoe. And I was delighted to find out that our ministry, through our Quest for Gold, supports his endeavors. Today is obviously very important for us in the nation's capital, but also through heritage sport, tourism, and culture industries. As we mark the Valor Games and we mark Remembrance Week, we think about the difficulties many generations have had over the years. And of course, as we move through a pandemic here in Ontario, this has been one of the greatest challenges all of us have ever seen. And the ministries of heritage, sport, tourism, and culture industries have been hit hard. They have been hit swiftly and will likely take the longest to recover. So today's announcement, the first after the provincial budget yesterday, is very significant to both the City of Ottawa, to our Canadian forces, and again, to our entire suite of sectors. So I'm proud to be here today to announce our government's support for the Valor Games, a new multi-sport competition for wounded, ill, and injured Canadian military personnel and veterans. Our brave service members and veterans face a number of challenges when they return from deployment or transition to civilian life. And through sport and through that camaraderie together in competition, we know that this is going to be a very successful part of their journey. And we believe that their individual journeys to recover and rehabilitation can greatly be enhanced through the transformative power of sport. That's why we're providing $3 million in funding for the inaugural Valor Games to be held right here in our nation's capital, every Canadian's second hometown. Taking place over 1 week, the Games will welcome 500 competitors from across Canada to compete in more than 10 adaptive sports. You know, our men and women liberated other nations. They fought tyranny in lands far away. And more recently in Afghanistan, they protected us from the scourge of terrorism. And we are proud of them, and Ontario is proud to support our wounded veterans and showcase their athletic accomplishments through this exciting multi-sport competition. Lest we forget. I'll now pass it over to Lou McKenzie.
Premier, Minister, je m'excuse, je ne parle pas français bien, which is a bit ironic that I don't speak French well, because in Sarajevo, 2/3 of the soldiers that made me look good were from the Vendu, French-Canadian soldiers, and the other third from the RCR, who struggled like I did to understand some of what was going on. Nevertheless, it's a real pleasure to be here representing Michael Burns. Michael Burns, you probably recall the name, was the conceiver and the CEO of the Invictus Games. He got his idea for Canadian participation back in 2014 when Prince Harry's first Invictus Games took place in the United Kingdom, and subsequently went to the United States, and then to Canada in Toronto in 2017, which was the biggest, most successful, comprehensive Invictus Games. Now, the fact is that it was so successful that any number of people in Canada, wounded, ill, veterans, servicemen and women, wanted to participate the next time around. But there's just not space. You can only take so many people to Australia, to Europe, whatever, as part of the team, families. And so it was thought that we would follow along the line of what happens to the Warrior Games in the United States and create our own national Canada Valor Games. And they would happen every second year. That way we can take a large number of people who wanted to participate and get them into the games here in Canada rather than just limiting ourselves to the international games, wherever they might be. I think it's fair to say, and I would hope that Mike would agree with me, that it's very important for the participation of these injured, ill, whatever soldiers, servicemen and women, but that's not the most important contribution. The most important contribution to the country is the fact that people are not coming forward to participate in athletic activities, test their body, test their minds, etc., that are sitting there at home. I'm saying that not in a pejorative sense, but not getting out and about to actually see the games, see how successful they are, see the leadership that's provided by people like Mike, and they come forward to participate. And they wouldn't have done otherwise. And so it's very important for Canada's morale and the morale of everybody here in this wonderful province of Ontario to get that message and join up. And those 500 athletes every year, every 2 years, it just doesn't happen at the event. It's all of the effort leading up to the event that is so good for them and so good for the morale of the rest of us. Now, let me be honest. This couldn't have been easy. We have serious problems and challenges in Ontario. And most of them are related not just to the virus, but to finances. And to see this commitment of $3 million as a kickstart fund for the Valor Games is absolutely outstanding. I won't say it's a surprise, but it was to me because I didn't have any background information on it. I think it's just absolutely marvelous. And I hope somewhere there's a hill not far from here, and maybe that hill is paying attention, and we look forward to continuing support from other levels of government. So bless you both, the Premier, the Minister. Thank you so very much. And now for a true Canadian hero, Mike Joyner.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a personal story through the power of sport, what actually led me to here today. On December 5th, 2008, I was wounded in Afghanistan. An IED went off. It took both my legs, destroyed both my arms and hands, left me with scarring, burns head to toe. And it took the one most important thing that every single soldier relies on, purpose. At that point, I already knew my career was going to be finished. I was going to be having to retire from the military. I was very stressed about these things and mentally not in the right place. I was in a very dark space. I had no idea about the power of sport, what it can actually do, how well it can heal our veterans and other people as well. So there I was in the hospital, trapped in a hospital bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything without anybody's assistance. It was terrible. Until I got a phone call from the Invictus Games, Mr. Michael Burns, and he said, I want you to come out to the Invictus Games in Toronto. Meet the team. I'll introduce you to special people from other nations as well. So I went, and I was challenged to represent my country again, which made me feel so proud to don the maple leaf again. You know, I'd served for almost 19 years with 3rd Battalion Royal Canadian Regiment out of CFB Petawawa. And every single day I got up, I was proud to wear that uniform, proud to represent the people of Canada and all the ethics and standards that comes with being a soldier. When that was taken away from me, it destroyed me, as it does many soldiers. But when I was given that opportunity to compete at the Invictus Games, I was re-energized, revigorated again. I felt like a brand new soldier again. So I trained as hard as I could for 1 year, just 1 year. And my goal was just to make Canadians proud and happy of me. That's all I wanted. So I went there, and lo and behold, out of 18 other nations, I got double gold medals for Canada. And I was so proud. I looked across the room, and all in front of me was all of you, Canadians. They had all the flags flying. Everybody was in tears. It was the greatest moment of my life. And that was the power of sport that got me off my couch. It's the power of sport that put purpose back into my life, which I needed. These games, the Valor Games, are going to give purpose back to soldiers that have lost their way. Whether they need mental assistance or help with physical challenges that they face every single day, the power of sport shows them what's possible. Just because you have a disability, it doesn't mean you can't try. And that's all I ask of my fellow veterans, is to come out and try. Where has it led me? After the Invictus Games, they told me to go try out for the Paralympic and Olympic tryouts in Toronto. I got picked up by Canoe Kayak Canada, and now I'm on the national team. I actually leave for British Columbia tomorrow for training as I make my way towards Tokyo 2021 to hopefully bring back some more medals for Canada. So standing up here as a wounded veteran, the message is, if you can dream it, you can do it. I was one of the top injured guys for my injuries from an IED, and I was able to accomplish what many thought that I could never do. For years and years, I heard I can't do, and I just got tired of what I can't do and turned that into a positive of what I can do. And now, I'm very proud to say I could put on the uniform again. I can hold my head up high, and it's all because of games like the Invictus Games, and now soon to be the Valor Games as well. And I will be there to assist any athlete that I can, whether through mentoring or coaching. And I'll also be there to compete, just because I want to keep everybody on their toes. Happy gaming, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. That was so inspiring. We are so proud of you. Don't ever for a moment think that your country isn't there for you. We definitely always will be. As the wife, a daughter, granddaughter, and great-granddaughter of men who have served our country, Premier, this announcement means a great deal to me. And it is also the perfect intersection of heritage sport, tourism, and culture as we fight to get out of COVID-19 and restore these sectors. So for members of the media, the Premier and I will be available later today for comments on this after the press conference at 1 o'clock. So we look forward to seeing you all then. And I'd just like to see if we can arrange for a photo op and maybe another way we might be able to support our local legions. So, thank you. All right. Now, do we all have masks? Do you have can you guys put your Legion masks on?
Sure.
Do you have the Premier's Legion mask?
Can't get it around my ears.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure, okay.
I got too big of a head.
And we've got to just okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, mine is, do you want these? Okay. I did this one myself one time where okay. I'm hoping I might be able to.
My noggin's too
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On February 18th, 1943, Squadron Leader Alfred Brenner of Toronto was flying off the coast of the Netherlands when he and his crew spotted an enemy convoy consisting of 5 destroyers. Rather than peeling away and calling for reinforcements, Squadron Leader Brenner attacked low over the waves, dropping a torpedo that successfully hit a 5,000-ton enemy vessel. Facing heavy fire, their plane was shot down, but not before they sent an SOS. Alone in dangerous waters, with a life raft and few resources, Alfred and his crew sent another call for rescue by sending a messenger pigeon that they had taken from their aircraft. After 2 long days at sea, Allied forces picked them up in a daring rescue mission. For his bravery, Squadron Leader Brenner received Britain's Distinguished Flying Cross. In the face of danger, Alfred and his crew chose to be brave. They chose to put their own lives on the line for the greater good. It's no wonder his citation reads, "This officer has displayed the greatest keenness and devotion to duty." En ce début de la semaine des vétérans, nous nous souvenons des héros comme le commandant d'aviation Brenner, dont les actions reflètent le courage de tant de femmes et d'hommes en uniforme. Nous rendons hommage à tous ceux et celles qui ont risqué leur vie pour notre liberté, incluant les 8 courageux membres des Forces armées canadiennes qui ont perdu la vie dans l'exercice de leurs fonctions cette année. Nous honorons leur mémoire et jamais nous ne les oublierons. Monsieur le Président, à l'occasion du 75e anniversaire de la fin de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, nous reconnaissons la chance que nous avons de vivre dans un pays comme le nôtre, grâce au sacrifice, au service et à la ténacité des gens qui ont vécu cette terrible guerre. Ils ont enduré la perte de frères, de sœurs et d'amis, mais malgré tout, ils ont trouvé de l'espoir et de la compassion les uns dans les autres. Au cours des décennies, ils ont continué de paver le chemin pour bâtir un monde meilleur et pour servir le bien commun. Et c'est ce même sens du devoir et du sacrifice qui a aussi conduit nos forces armées à participer à de multiples missions de maintien de la paix, notamment en Corée et en Afghanistan. Quand nous avons besoin d'eux, nos femmes et nos hommes en uniforme sont toujours prêts à se porter au secours des autres. Récemment, ils ont fait preuve d'altruisme en protégeant et en aidant nos citoyens les plus vulnérables, nos personnes âgées, dans les établissements de soins de longue durée. Monsieur le Président, leurs gestes et leur dévouement à l'égard des valeurs canadiennes sont le reflet de ce que nous avons de meilleur à offrir. Our veterans served Canada with honor and valor right across this country and all around the world. They stepped up for us, and now it's time for us to do the same for them. We don't need to wonder how we will rise to the moment because we need only look around Canada to see the answer. We see it in young people getting groceries for older veterans to keep them safe. We see it in frontline workers who, after hours of standing on tired feet, never give up as they care for our parents and grandparents, the last members of the greatest generation. We've seen it in the crew of the HMCS Fredericton and the members of the Snowbirds, brave women and men who, even after tragedy, continued to show us what service and sacrifice means. En cette semaine des vétérans, pensons à ceux qui ont servi avec honneur et courage. Laissons-nous inspirer par les idéaux qu'ils avaient à cœur et contribuons tous, ensemble, à bâtir avec eux un monde meilleur. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The Canada Child Benefit has been putting more money in the pockets of hardworking Canadian families since 2016. As part of its COVID-19 economic response plan, the Government of Canada gave 3.7 million families a one-time extra payment with their regular May 2020 Canada Child Benefit payment. Families already getting the benefit received an additional $300 per child. Also this year, in July 2020, the CCB has been indexed to inflation to keep up with the cost of living. Now, this benefit year, based on income when filing your 2019 tax return, eligible families can receive up to $6,765 a year per child under age 6 and up to $5,708 per child age 6 through 17. This gives increased support for middle-class families so that they can pay for things like healthy food, clothes for growing children, and activities they can do together at home. For example, a family with 2 children under the age of 6 with an income of $30,000 will receive $13,530 this benefit year. That is $250 more tax-free than last year, and just over $3,000 more when compared to child benefits that existed before the Canada Child Benefit. And it's tax-free. So when your family files their tax return, there's no CCB to pay back. It's that simple. This is just one of the many ways the Government of Canada provides support to families who need it most. For more information, visit canada.ca/Canada Child Benefit.
Mon nom, c'est Éric Laframboise. Je travaille à la ville de Gatineau comme chauffeur d'autobus. Puis j'ai une belle petite fille de 9 ans qui est Annabelle.
Je m'appelle Annabelle et je suis en 3e année. Puis j'ai 9 ans. Mon père s'appelle Éric. J'aime beaucoup jouer à Pokémon Go. J'aime aussi faire du bicycle. J'aime marcher avec les chiens, avec lui.
Pour moi, c'est très important de passer du temps avec Annabelle. C'est ma seule fille. Je l'adore plus que tout au monde. C'est juste un petit joyau que j'adore passer du temps avec. L'allocation canadienne pour enfants nous aide beaucoup avec les cours pour Annabelle, les cours de danse, les cours de natation, aussi les sorties comme des fois on va au zoo, les sorties pour faire de la poterie qu'Annabelle aime beaucoup, qu'elle fait quelques fois par mois.
Mon activité préférée est la danse parce que ça me fait du sport, puis j'aime ça les spectacles, puis aussi j'aime ça apprendre d'autres nouveaux mouvements.
Les activités sont importantes pour Annabelle, juste pour avoir de l'activité physique, c'est interagir avec d'autres mondes, passer du temps avec des amis ou ses parents. Puis pour apprendre des nouvelles choses.
Bonne fête des pères.
Merci, je t'aime.
Merci.
Bon vendredi à tous, tout le monde. In Canada, just like in many other countries, COVID-19 cases are still rising. Yesterday, both British Columbia and Saskatchewan announced a record high of daily new cases. On Wednesday, Ontario reported their largest number of new COVID-19 related deaths in a single day since the beginning of the second wave. I can't stress this enough. This situation is serious. These are not just numbers. These are people's grandparents, parents, and loved ones. We all have our own reasons, our own loved ones that we want to look out for and protect. I just got news last night that my godfather and uncle, Tom Walker, had to be readmitted to hospital last night. He's been in and out of hospital over a while, and I'm sending him my love, and we're all thinking about our loved ones who we haven't been able to see for many months, who we're worried about. We all have our reasons to keep each other safe, to follow public health advice. We need to do that. It's particularly nice outside in many parts of the country this week, which means we're still enjoying lots of fresh air. But winter is coming. And that means we're going to have to get into more enclosed spaces. We're not going to be able to open windows wide in rooms. Ventilation is going to become much more important. We need to remember
to be careful. There is increasing evidence that aerosol spread is a vector of transmission. We need to wear masks. We need to avoid crowded, closed spaces, as Dr. Tam has said many times. We need to make sure we're making it into winter on a good footing so we can hold on through winter. The vaccines hopefully will be here in the spring, but there's a lot of work to do between now and then to make sure that we're keeping Canadians safe and healthy. That's the work we need to continue to be determined to do. We need to continue to be there for each other. So continue to follow local public health guidelines. Wear a mask, keep your distance, and download the COVID-19 app. Les cas de COVID-19 continuent d'augmenter au Canada et à travers le monde. Je veux être bien clair, la situation est sérieuse. Ce n'est pas le temps de baisser notre garde. Cette semaine, on a vu des nombres records de nouveaux cas dans plusieurs régions du pays. Hier seulement, le Québec a enregistré 1138 cas supplémentaires. Pensez à vos grands-parents, à vos proches, aux travailleurs de première ligne et aux plus vulnérables. Ensemble, on peut aider à les protéger en suivant les consignes des autorités locales de santé publique. Continuons de porter le masque, de garder nos distances et de télécharger l'application gratuite Alerte COVID. Il fait beau dehors ces jours-ci dans beaucoup de parties du pays. Nous pouvons continuer d'être dehors, mais dans quelques semaines, l'hiver va arriver. Nous allons devoir être plus à l'intérieur, dans des endroits moins bien ventilés, dans des endroits où on ne peut pas ouvrir les fenêtres. Et nous allons devoir faire vraiment attention, de faire tout ce qu'on peut maintenant pour empêcher les éclosions de la COVID-19, pour entrer en hiver dans une meilleure posture que ce qu'on est maintenant, pour pouvoir passer à travers l'hiver en sachant que le printemps va être mieux, l'été va être mieux, on l'espère avec des vaccins. Donc, continuons de tenir bon, d'être là les uns pour les autres. On a tous nos raisons de suivre les instructions des autorités de santé publique. Nous devons, tous et chacun, de continuer de faire notre part. De notre côté, le gouvernement aussi poursuit ses efforts. Par exemple, lors de la dernière semaine seulement, nous avons envoyé 3,5 millions de gants en nitrile vers les provinces et les territoires pour les soutenir dans la lutte contre le virus. Nous continuons aussi de distribuer des tests de dépistage rapides. Dans les 3 dernières semaines, plus de 2,8 millions de tests rapides ont été distribués et plusieurs autres suivront sous peu. While our government is doing everything we can to keep Canadians safe, we're also working hard to keep Canadian jobs. This morning, we received the news that 84,000 jobs were added to the economy in October, mostly full-time positions. This means over 2.3 million Canadians have returned to work after they lost their jobs during the pandemic. We're making progress, but there's still much more work to be done. The technology and innovation sector is and will continue to be a key tool in creating good jobs and rebuilding a stronger, more competitive economy. In April, we created the Innovation Assistance Program with the National Research Council of Canada to support innovative businesses, including pre-revenue firms that were not eligible for the wage subsidy. This investment helped small and medium-sized Canadian businesses keep 24,000 employees on the payroll. To continue supporting these companies and the people they employ, I can announce that we are extending the Innovation Assistance Program with a new investment of $155 million. High-potential, innovative firms are key drivers of economic growth, and we will be there to help them bridge to the other side of this crisis. Aujourd'hui, j'annonce un investissement de 155 millions de dollars pour prolonger le programme d'aide à l'innovation du Conseil national de recherche du Canada. Ce programme a pour but de soutenir les petites et moyennes entreprises du secteur de l'innovation, incluant les entreprises à revenus subséquents qui ne sont pas éligibles à la subvention salariale. Suite à sa création en avril, le programme d'aide à l'innovation a permis de conserver 24 000 emplois. L'industrie de l'innovation a un rôle primordial à jouer dans notre relance en vue d'une économie plus forte et plus compétitive. Notre gouvernement est là pour aider ces entreprises et leurs travailleurs à passer à travers cette crise. Le ministre Baines va élaborer davantage dans quelques instants, mais avant, j'aimerais aussi parler de nos efforts pour encourager la recherche scientifique partout au Canada. La science est notre plus grand atout pour lutter contre le virus. C'est pourquoi nos chercheurs doivent avoir accès aux ressources nécessaires pour bien faire leur travail. Par le biais du Fonds des occasions exceptionnelles COVID-19 de la Fondation canadienne pour l'innovation, nous ferons un investissement de près de 28 millions de dollars qui soutiendra 79 projets de recherche liés à la pandémie. Pour une équipe du Cégep André Laurendeau, par exemple, ces fonds permettront d'étudier des endroits publics en se servant de la technologie 3D pour aider à améliorer les mesures de distanciation sociale. À l'Université de Calgary, d'autres chercheurs vont pouvoir se servir d'un nouveau microscope à la fine pointe pour étudier l'effet de la COVID-19 sur les vaisseaux sanguins. Les équipes sélectionnées œuvrent dans des universités, des cégeps, des hôpitaux de recherche, des collèges et des polytechniques à travers le pays. Ces investissements les aideront à se procurer l'équipement nécessaire pour bien mener leur recherche et faire avancer la science. As we head into the weekend, I want to end today by coming back to something I mentioned last Friday. Things are tough, and we all need to take care not just of loved ones, friends, and neighbors, but of ourselves, too. In many parts of the country, right now you might be asked to stay home and limit the number of people you see as much as possible. I know we all miss getting together with friends, colleagues, and extended family. It's not easy. So if you're feeling anxious, or if you're struggling with mental health or other challenges, pick up the phone and reach out to someone you can trust. You can also always call 211, a 24-hour helpline that will connect you to the right resources. It's free and confidential, and they can help you in more than 150 different languages. Merci, prenez soin de vous, passez une bonne fin de semaine, et une bonne semaine du souvenir.
wanted to come and personally thank the outstanding team at Ottawa Civic Hospital, led by the outstanding President and CEO, Cameron Love, as well as all of our frontline workers at our Ottawa hospitals and long-term care homes. You're absolute champions. You've been true heroes over the past few months. And Mayor Watson, it's great to see you again, and thank you for our many great discussions we've had. We've been listening to you and to the people of Ottawa, and I'm here today with our Minister of Finance, Rod Phillips, our Health Minister, Christine Elliott, and all of our local champions, Minister Lisa MacLeod, Minister Marilee Fullerton, MPP Goldie Gamari, and MPP Jeremy Roberts. I always say Ottawa is well represented because we've made incredible progress here in Ottawa. A few weeks ago, when we first saw the second wave that hit Ottawa, we worked closely with Mayor Watson, Dr. Etches, and our team to quickly bring in targeted action to stop the spread of COVID-19. And thanks to that early and necessary action, we're now seeing real improvements. And I was talking to the mayor the other day, and it's amazing when people band together what they can do New cases in Ottawa are trending down. People are following the rules. And I agree with Mayor Watson and Dr. Etches 100% when they say we have to find ways to make sure we keep our schools and businesses open while protecting everyone's health and safety. That's why, effective tomorrow, I can confirm that Ottawa will be moving to the orange restrict level of our new COVID-19 response framework. This means Ottawa restaurants, bars, and gyms will be able to reopen tomorrow, provided they follow public health measures. York Region will be joining Ottawa as Eastern Ontario Health Unit moves to yellow protect level. That's because of improving public health trends. After consulting with local medical officer of health, our chief medical officer of health, and in line with the clear indicators outlined in our new COVID-19 framework, Peel Region Health Unit will move to the red control level. This is why we have the framework, so we can scale up public health measures to protect the health and the well-being of the public. We need to get this virus under control in Peel. The region is averaging 103 cases per 100,000. The percent positivity in daily cases is growing. Hospital capacity is under pressure as we bring in reinforcements to support case and contact management. As we move many more regions across the province into this new framework on Saturday, I am confident our government has a clear plan to support frontline healthcare going forward. That's why our government is delivering $15.2 billion more this year for healthcare through the 2020 Ontario budget. Ontario's action plan, Protect, Support and Recover. That's an additional $15.2 billion to reinforce our healthcare system and better support our frontline heroes and the patients they care for. Mr. Phillips has done an incredible job to make every resource available to fight the deadly threat we face with COVID-19. Thanks to this plan, we are ready for anything. We have the most comprehensive and robust fall preparedness plan in the entire country. This investment will help us clear the backlog of surgeries and improve access to care at hospitals across the province. As we announced yesterday, the next phase of Ontario's action plan will add over 2,200 hospital beds right across the province. That's over 2,200 additional beds to ensure we have the necessary capacity to care for patients and battle any future surges or waves. We're making an investment of over $350 million to help bring the necessary capacity to our hospitals. For Ottawa, this funding means 254 more beds for the region, and that's huge, 254 more beds. My friends, help is here. We're continuing to build our surge capacity, but we hope never to have to use it. I ask the people of Ottawa and everyone across the province, please continue to follow public health measures, watch your local alert level, be responsible when you dine out or go to the gym, and avoid large gatherings. Together, we can protect our hospitals and get back a little more of our normal lives. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Now I'll pass it over to Minister Phillips.
It's a great honor to be here in Ottawa with my colleagues. Thank you, Premier Ford, for your leadership, Minister Elliott, for your leadership in the health area, of course, Minister Fullerton and Minister MacLeod, great colleagues around the cabinet table, and our MPPs, Gamari and Roberts. Thank you. And thank you to Cameron Love, the President and CEO of Ottawa Hospital, for welcoming us here, as well as, of course, Mayor Watson. I was teaching Mayor Watson, we call it the shuffle when we sit in these groups behind us as we move around today. So we'll see how well he does during the press conference. Yesterday, I announced the next phase of our government's response to COVID-19, Ontario's action plan, Protect, Support and Recover. Our plan has three pillars. First, we are taking steps to protect people from the deadly virus by increasing our investments in healthcare to $15.2 billion. Second, we are building on the early relief provided for a total of $13.5 billion in direct support for families, workers, and employees, and that's in addition to $11.3 billion in cash flow support. And third, we are removing barriers to recovery and providing $4.8 billion to protect and create jobs now and in the future. This next phase of Ontario's action plan, brings the total COVID-19 response by the Government of Ontario to $45 billion over the next 3 years. Protect is the first pillar of our plan, and today's $45 million investment in those 254 beds the Premier mentioned in Ottawa is just one example of how we are doing what it takes to continue to protect people from COVID-19. The people of Ontario have done and are doing their part, including here in Ottawa, by respecting and following public health advice. And our government is doing ours. In total, we're spending $8.3 billion more to protect our frontline healthcare heroes and protect people from COVID-19. This does include supporting 141 hospitals and healthcare facilities, 626 long-term care homes since the pandemic began. As we announced yesterday, this includes an additional $572 million more to ensure Ontario's hospitals have the necessary resources to continue providing care for those who need it. And that means in total, our hospitals received $2.5 billion more than they received last year. Since March, working with our hospital partners, we've added an additional 3,100 beds to help communities be prepared for scenarios. That includes, of course, the 2,200 the Premier mentioned most recently added. Ontario has built the most robust testing network in the country, which includes 161 assessment centres, 170 pharmacy locations, and 40 community-based mobile testing units. We're leading the country with testing of over 5.3 million tests since March. And we purchased $1.1 billion in personal protective equipment to protect our frontline heroes so they can do their jobs safely. That's 300 million masks, 900 million gloves, 50 million gowns, and 6 million face shields. Ontario's action plan, Protect, Support and Recover, makes good on Premier Ford's simple and non-negotiable promise to the people of Ontario at the beginning of this pandemic. Your government will do whatever it takes to get through the pandemic. As COVID-19 continues to threaten our health, we will continue to be there to protect the people of Ontario. And with that, I'll pass it over to the Minister of Health and Deputy Premier, Minister Elliott.
Thank you, Minister Phillips. I want to start by thanking the staff and leadership at the Ottawa Hospital for your incredible and ongoing efforts in response to COVID-19. Our doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers really showed us their determination, compassion, and commitment to protecting and keeping us safe. Thank you to all the staff, physicians, nurses, and volunteers for all of your efforts. Our government will do whatever it takes to protect the health and well-being of Ontarians and ensure they have timely access to the care they need close to home. That's why we are investing nearly $45 million to create up to 254 more hospital beds in Ottawa. This includes 39 beds and 20 ambulatory offload spaces at the Ottawa Hospital, 120 beds at the Greystone Village Retirement Home, 56 beds operated by the Queensway Carleton Hospital, 10 beds at Hôpital Montfort, and 9 beds at CHEO. Today's funding also includes over $16 million to build the new Emergency Department Ambulance Offload and Medicine Transition Unit facility here at the Ottawa Hospital Civic Campus, and $1.5 million to hire dedicated offload nurses at 4 Ottawa area hospitals to support paramedics transferring the care of their patients to hospital staff, allowing them to respond to the next 911 call more quickly. Through these investments, our government is increasing hospital capacity and reducing wait times for patients and families in the Ottawa region, and ensuring our health system is able to respond to COVID-19 outbreaks and help patients waiting for surgeries and other procedures. So thank you, and I would now like to invite my colleague, Minister Fullerton, to say a few words.
Thank you, Minister Elliott, and many congratulations to Minister Phillips on delivering the budget yesterday. Our action plan keeps people safe, supports our businesses, and lays the way forward for us. And I'm so pleased to be here today with the Premier and my MPP colleagues for this announcement that is so critical for Ottawa and surrounding areas. As the Minister of Long-Term Care and as local MPP, I know that the opening of these new beds at our hospitals is critical to a healthy community. And I want to thank our hospitals, whether it's the Ottawa Hospital, the Queensway Carleton Hospital, CHEO, or the Montfort. I want to particularly thank the Ottawa Hospital right now who are helping with our home in Nepean right now. So I thank you very much. And special thanks to Cameron Love for all his help and his team. These are true champions, and they are regional champions. These partnerships are what will ensure that we have a truly integrated healthcare system, both here in Ottawa and across the province. And I would now like to call upon my Ottawa colleague, Minister Lisa MacLeod.
First, I'd like to start off by thanking Premier Ford, Minister Phillips, and Minister Elliott for joining us here today. And I'd like to thank my colleague, Minister Fullerton, for her steadfast leadership in the long-term care sector. Over the last number of years, I've worked hard on behalf of the Ottawa Hospital, Hôpital Montfort, CHEO, and the Queensway Carleton Hospital to help strengthen our local healthcare system, to more effectively support alternative levels of care patients across the nation's capital. Today's announcement will help alleviate pressure by adding 254 beds right here at home. This is a welcomed and needed investment by our government for our city as we fight off the COVID second wave and deal with the flu season. The past 8 months have tested us in immeasurable ways, and I want to personally thank our healthcare heroes who continue to fight on the front lines of the pandemic. I can assure you that our government will be there for you. I'll be there for you. We will continue to invest in our healthcare system to ensure you receive the support you deserve so you can provide Ontarians most vulnerable with the care they deserve. Thank you, and I'd like to now call upon my friend and colleague Cameron Love, President and CEO of the Ottawa Hospital, to say a few words.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Minister MacLeod. It's truly a privilege to be here today for this important event during these unprecedented times. The last 6 months has been a challenge for our entire hospital, our community, our healthcare system, and the province at large. But I want to start by thanking the Premier and the members of his government for their continuing unwavering leadership, support, and commitment to invest in our healthcare system across this great province, and in particular for the investments at the Ottawa Hospital and our partners across this region. Because of their commitment, we were able to increase our bed capacity to care for people when they're at their most vulnerable times and when they require access to the Ottawa Hospital's most specialized services. I'd also like to recognize our frontline healthcare staff and physicians who have cared for this community relentlessly since the beginning of the pandemic. They come to the hospital day in and day out, committed to providing our patients with compassionate care that they all deserve. These important investments by our government will provide our healthcare team with infrastructure they need to continue our care to the community during these difficult times. The people in Ottawa and Eastern Ontario can rest assured that with the commitment shown by this government and the dedication of our healthcare teams, we will continue to provide world-class care not only through this pandemic, but in all the times ahead. Thank you for your time today, and I'd like to now hand it over to Mayor Watson.
Well, thank you, Cameron, and good afternoon, everyone. I want to begin today by thanking Premier Ford for inviting me here today and to welcome Minister Phillips and Minister Elliott, and of course Minister MacLeod, MPP Jeremy Roberts, and MPP Goldie Gamari, and our great healthcare workers here in the province of Ontario and in the city of Ottawa. Throughout the pandemic, the Premier has been a great partner. He's always quick to answer my calls and texts. In fact, he usually replies to me faster than my sister does, so thank you, Premier, for that. I also want to take a moment to thank our first responders and the amazing staff here at all of our hospitals. Merci à notre personnel médical et les premiers respondants pour leur service envers nos résidents ici à Ottawa à travers la pandémie et à chaque jour. The provincial announcement of funds for an additional 254 beds at hospitals and alternate care facilities in Ottawa is welcome and much needed in our city, especially, of course, during this pandemic. The extra beds will go a long way in addressing offload delays at hospital emergency rooms, a critical issue for our community. And Premier, I think the first time we met, we talked about this challenge with our paramedics, and you delivered with the budget. We thank you very, very much. These delays, of course, have meant that we have reduced availability of ambulances and paramedics for 911 calls. Last year alone, Ottawa paramedics waited more than 53,000 hours to transfer patients to hospital staff. Cela contribua grandement à répondre à ces besoins critiques à Ottawa. This is wonderful news for Ottawa, and I'd like to thank Premier Ford and Minister Elliott and our local MPPs and our partners for their action on this serious issue and for their support. Merci beaucoup, and please go out and support a great restaurant here in Ottawa, and thank you for the work that you've done, Premier, to ensure that the small business community has a voice at Queen's Park, and you've responded, and they are very, very appreciative. Merci. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor. And before I get started, Goldie and Jeremy, do you have a second? Do you want to come up for a second? Goldie, come on up. Reason I'm bringing our two all-star MPPs, you know, I'm up here every single day, and these folks of our caucus, they're the ones in the trenches. They're the ones behind the scenes, and they're just absolute heroes. I always tell our cabinet, and they agree, our caucus members are more important than anyone out there. So Jeremy, thank you for the great job that you're doing, and Goldie, you're an absolute champion. So thank you. Before we get started, something really disturbing happened today, and it's regarding Whole Foods' policy to ban employees from wearing poppies. I find it absolutely disgusting and disgraceful. It's disrespectful when it comes to honoring our heroes, our veterans. And I'll tell you a story. I was over with Minister MacLeod over at the War Memorial and met two gentlemen, General Lou Mackenzie, which I think a lot of you know, but Michael Tarrant. He's a hero. He was over in Afghanistan fighting for our freedoms. He lost his legs because of an EID. His hands, he had severe damage to his whole body. And then Whole Foods wants to come out and disrespect someone like that, or disrespect people that fought for the freedoms of our country all the way back from 1915 in Flanders Field when they came up with this poppy. I find it disgraceful. And obviously, whoever at Whole Foods made this decision isn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. Matter about as sharp as a butter knife. Our veterans have sacrificed for us, sacrificed for our front line freedoms that we face every single day that we can walk around, sacrificed for our way of life, sacrificed to ensure our country remains strong and free. When the legislature returns, we will introduce legislation to ban companies from preventing their staff from wearing a poppy during Remembrance Week. I never, ever want to see any company in Ontario ever do this again. The poppy is an endearing symbol of sacrifice and appreciation for all our veterans. And we will always, always respect and stand up for our heroes. And I'll be ready to take questions now.
We'll go to the phone line for questions. First question, please.
Your first question comes from Ashley Legastic with News Talk 1010. Please go ahead.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Premier. Thank you for taking my question. Obviously, there's so much going on today. I wish I could ask you about all of it, but I'll start out with Peel Region. When your government introduced this new framework, it was kind of showed as a system that would finally give some certainty to businesses for when they could expect to reopen or restrict. But here we are today, and less than 12 hours before they were supposed to be allowed to open up, they're moving to the red zone. So there's no doubt restaurant owners in the region would have spent the early part of this week spending thousands of dollars on food and product preparing for a reopening. For health officials in Peel, it's been pretty clear all week they wouldn't be ready to reopen, so why is this coming so late? And what do you have to say to restaurant owners who are out even more money?
Well, before I pass it over to the Minister of Health, the red zone, they can still have customers come in, a limit of 10 per restaurant, tables of 4. They can stay open till 10 o'clock, stop serving alcohol at 9 o'clock, so it doesn't totally shut them down. But the numbers that we're seeing in Peel and specifically Brampton, they're just going through the roof. It's out of control right now, and we have to react. And these are the tough decisions I absolutely hate making. I hate making them. I told the health table today, I mentioned it to our cabinet. At the end of the day, I have to make these decisions with the consultation of our Chief Medical Officer of Health, the health table, and the Public Health Officer of Peel. I've talked to the mayors as well. Yes, they're reluctant as well to close businesses. But folks, there has to be a point that we do, as uncomfortable as myself and Mayor Watson were to close businesses. It works. The people of Ottawa hunkered down. And look at the difference that we've seen in a few weeks here in Ottawa. And I give all of the mayor all the credit, his leadership. I give all the credit to the people of Ottawa. Folks in Brampton, we gotta hunker down, because it's gonna, what I don't wanna do is go to the absolute worst scenario that everything gets locked down. Our hospitals are at capacity. William Osler is at capacity right now. That's what this is about. So I'll pass it over to the Minister of Health.
Well, we received specific data on both Tuesdays and Thursdays about what's happening in each region across Ontario. And unfortunately, we've seen the numbers in Peel region escalate quite sharply. So action needed to be taken, as the Premier stated. We've seen the case numbers go up dramatically. The percent positivity rate is at about 11% right now. What we really want to get to is below 2.5%. So it's a huge gap. And we're also seeing the R factor is at about 1.2 and rising as well. So we know that the numbers are out there. There is community spread and transmission. And we also have to take a look at our ability of our health system to manage the increase in cases. Right now, the William Osler Health System has 57 patients with COVID-19. They also have a number of staff away because of illness as well, and they have asked for other hospitals to take any new patients for them, and they've had to cancel some of the surgeries that people have been waiting for a long time. So we know that there's a considerable problem in Peel region right now. We're also going to be sending in help for them, an additional 70 contact tracers, as well as some of the people from some of the northern public health units where the numbers are much smaller. They are also coming in to help with telephone support. So we also want to make sure that we can have people there to monitor, understand what's going on from an enforcement perspective, because we have to get these numbers down.
Follow up?
Thank you.
Thank you both very much for that. Premier and Health Minister, if you could speak to this as well. This is in regards to something Dr. Eileen de Villa, the Chief Medical Officer of Health in Toronto, put out today in a letter for the city's Board of Health to consider. She laid out how severe the overdose crisis in Toronto has been, especially during the pandemic, and she is calling for the decriminalization of simple drug possession. What's your reaction to that, and would you support decriminalization?
Decriminalization of what type of a drug?
Simple possession for a very small amount of drugs, whether it's heroin or cocaine, something like that.
Absolutely not. I am not in favor of legalizing a small quantity of cocaine or heroin. Our government's doing it. We need to put more money, more support into addiction. That's why we're putting $3.8 billion into mental health and addiction to support these people, not to encourage people to do more cocaine, more heroin. You know, we need to have the money to put these people and support them into rehab and support them that way. But absolutely 100% I am not in favor in legalizing small quantities of heroin or cocaine. It's a terrible, terrible drug. We aren't talking about weed or marijuana. We're talking about serious drugs that can kill people, that are highly, highly addictive. So the answer is no. I'll pass it over to the Minister of Health.
Well, first of all, I'm in complete agreement with the Premier on this issue, but we also have a significant plan that we brought forward just before the COVID pandemic struck us, our Roadmap to Wellness. It's a comprehensive mental health and addiction strategy. We are dealing with the addictions issue. We also have a number of consumption and treatment service sites available right now where people can to use whatever drugs they're using under supervision so that if there are any problems, that there's staff there that are going to be able to help them. That's what we need to do. We need to talk to people, get them into rehabilitation if we can. That's the way these sites have been set up. We want to get people off drugs, not take more.
Next question.
Your next question comes from Taylor Blewett with Ottawa Sun. Please go ahead.
Hi, Kayla.
Thanks for taking my question.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, first of all, why didn't your government announce any new funding specifically for local public health units in yesterday's budget? You know, here in Ottawa, public health is facing multi-million-dollar budget pressures for 2020 and 2021 because of COVID, and we have heard previously that OPH has had to cut back on some of the non-COVID aspects of its mandate. I'm wondering, why not invest more dollars into public health when they have proven such a critical player during this pandemic?
I'll pass this over to Minister of Finance.
Thank you for the question, Taylor. You know, as part of the investments we've made investments of over $170 million into both directly into the public health system and, of course, as well into the community-based health supports, whether it's telehealth and other important areas. I did have a conversation with Mayor Watson this morning, and one of the areas we've also been very active on has been support for municipalities. The Premier led the other premiers to a historic $4 billion of support for municipalities, and of course municipalities share the funding responsibility with public health. So we'll continue to have that dialogue and discussion. I know the Minister of Health has made it clear that public health is an important priority for us. But again, we've provided more dollars, and particularly have said that we will continue to be there with our municipalities to support public health as well as the broader health system.
Follow up.
And just pivoting a little bit, the budget proposal to grant municipalities the power to issue property tax breaks to small businesses. Just wondering, where did the idea for this actually come from, and are you concerned at all that cities will just have to raise residential property taxes to cover the shortfall this would create?
I don't believe so, and before I hand it back to the Minister of Finance, I call him the architect because he was the architect of a phenomenal budget. We have to create an environment for companies to come here and thrive and grow and prosper. And a good example that the Minister used yesterday on all fronts, not just property taxes, no matter if it's a business education tax, which was unfair right across the province. It was all over the place. Now we have a level playing field that companies are going to be able to save up to 30% on that. But a good example on energy costs was what GM, the CEO, when they left Oshawa a while ago, they said, how can you be competitive in a jurisdiction of Ontario with some of the highest hydro rates in North America? And I got to give a shout out again to Jerry Diaz for putting a great deal together, attracting GM back. But we have to create an environment because we aren't competing against the guy down the street anymore. We're competing against the Michigans, the Ohios, the Pennsylvanias, North Carolinas that want to try to eat our lunch. That's not going to happen. We're going to bring more companies to Ontario because we're going to create that environment until they can go and reinvest into their companies here. They reinvest into the people, reinvest into technology and equipment, and keep the money here. And then you got all the reciprocal jobs too, from let's use auto sector for GM, all the part manufacturers. We signed a great deal with Ford and Chrysler as well. We're going to be the automotive capital of North America. We're just slightly behind Michigan right now, but with GM coming on board, we're going to overtake Michigan and be, again, the auto capital of North America. And I love the idea of those battery operated cars too. We'll be producing more cars, battery operated cars, than any jurisdiction anywhere in North America, because we have the brightest and the best people anywhere in the world right here in Ontario, and there's nothing we can't make. There's nothing or no one we can't compete against when we're all pulling in the same direction. I'll pass it over to the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, and I do appreciate the question. First of all, I should say this is flexibility for municipalities, so they will choose whether it makes sense. But this idea actually came from municipal leaders. They said, we would like to be able to take our small businesses, who we know are under pressure, we know have been hardest hit in many ways, and we'd like to have a way to be able to give them a lower tax rate than other tax rates in our area. And very specifically, and I did call him out in yesterday's budget, Mayor John Tory of Toronto was one of the mayors who made this suggestion. So we're giving municipalities that flexibility, but we're going one step further. About 40% of the local tax bill for property taxes is actually to the province to pay for education. So we, of course, will keep funding education at record levels, but we're going to match that reduction where municipalities make the choice to make a reduction. And we used an example from the City of Toronto yesterday of a typical bakery where, you know, the municipal reduction, were they to say do a 30% reduction, would be $5,000. You know, the provincial component would be $4,000, so that's $9,000. And then with the education property tax reduction that the Premier mentioned, you know, that would be another $1,100. So we're talking a significant, over $10,000 reduction. And today, when our small businesses are under so much pressure, knowing that that's there next year, starting January 1st, but for all the years after that, that can make the difference between some businesses staying open and or deciding that they can't. So this is support we're happy to provide in partnership. The idea came from our municipal partners. We hope that they will take us up on it, but again, it'll be a choice for each municipality. Thank you.
Next question.
Your next question comes from Brian Lilly with the Toronto Sun. Please go ahead.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Hi, Premier. You're saying that you're keeping restaurants closed, or not closed, but to 10, which many restaurant owners would essentially say it means they have to stay closed. They can't operate at that. But you're saying you're doing it because of the case count in Peel and the spread and the positivity. The numbers are actually up now, much higher than they were before you closed. So why are you punishing restaurants, gyms, etc., when if they've been closed for the last 2 months, you know, it was 86 cases on October 5th, now it's almost 300. Why are you punishing businesses that have been closed because of whatever else is happening in the community? Isn't it, as you said to Bill Carroll this morning, that people are just having parties and spreading it that way?
Well, there's a combination of spread right across that region, Brian. And if you look at the positivity rates, they're going through the roof. You look at the William Osler, ever since this has started, I've never had a call from William Osler saying, hey, we're becoming maxed out. And at the end of the day, they just have to hunker down. They have to hunker down and start following the protocols. Follow what Ottawa did. Follow what we did in Toronto before, when all of Ontario was under 100 cases. Brian, it's easy to be the armchair quarterback all the time and ask me these questions, but you know, we have two choices here, Brian. We either just let this just go hog wild, just out of control. We won't have hospital capacity, and people will be dying, and the COVID cases will be running rampant like wildfire across Peel, and then Peel goes into Halton, and Halton goes so on and so forth. Or we do some preventative maintenance, as I say. We jump in there, and we aren't asking them to stay in stage 2. We're going into the red zone, control zone, and they're going to be able to at least bring some people into their restaurants and hopefully flip the tables as quickly as possible. But I encourage people to go and support your local restaurants. Order takeout when possible. Buy a bottle of wine, support them. Buy some spirits, buy a case of beer. That's how we can support them. Brian, if you think for a second as a business owner, if you think I like closing businesses, buddy, you're so wrong. It's unbelievable. I absolutely despise closing businesses. But I have to keep the health and safety of this province moving forward. Simple as that.
Follow up?
Okay, Premier, I get that you don't like getting difficult questions from me, but if we can stop with the, calling me an armchair quarterback and then just going to big scary numbers. I'm asking you about the fact in front of us. Whether we're talking daily count cases or 7-day numbers, after 28 days of restaurants and gyms being closed in Peel, the numbers are up dramatically. So the spread is obviously not happening there. How does keeping them closed or restricted to such small numbers that many say they can't operate, how does that help? I'm asking you a specific question based on your data. I'm not being an armchair quarterback. I'm not trying to be a jerk to you. I'm trying to do my job, sir, and ask a question.
I appreciate
how
that, Brian.
How does this help if the spread happened when they were closed?
Well, I appreciate that, Brian. And I always say I'm not one to stand up here and pretend I'm a medical professional. I listen to the advice of the Chief Medical Officer, our health table, our Minister of Health, and when they're showing me the numbers and they're giving me the recommendations, I have two choices, Brian. I either ignore them, and I used this example last time with you. You go to the doc, and the doc says you got an issue. Do you ignore him or do you take his advice? Well, sometimes you go get another set of ears and eyes and get advice off another doc. We have well over 100 docs giving us all this information. You know, it's not just Dr. Williams. We have the local medical officer, Dr. Lowe, asking me to do the same thing. So either I just wash my hands of it, Brian, and say, we just aren't going to listen to the docs anymore, and let's just go at it. I don't believe in that. I believe in protecting the health and safety of the people of Ontario. And I'll pass it over to my Minister of Health.
Well, as the Premier has indicated, we take advice and recommendations from Dr. Williams, from the Public Health Measures Table. There are a number of other doctors that feed into that table that provide us with advice. But the reality is that there is community spread due to a wide variety of factors, including restaurants, bars, workplaces are also a concern. And then people just not following the basic public health rules of making sure that you maintain social distancing, washing hands frequently, wearing a face covering where it's necessary to do so or where you can't keep that distance, and staying home when you're ill. So this is really important for all 14.5 million people in the province of Ontario, and especially right now for all of the people in Peel Region. We want them to move out of this area that they're in right now. We want to see those numbers go down, and with everyone following all of the rules, it will happen. But we have to take some action right now because our hospital system is becoming overwhelmed. We want to be able to treat everyone that comes in with COVID-19 or whatever else brings them to hospital. So we have to take these measures. It's not something any of us want to do, but we also have a responsibility to protect the health and safety of the people of Ontario, and that's what we need to do now.
Last question.
Your final question comes from Colin DeMello with CTV News. Please go ahead.
Hi,
Hi
Colin.
there, Premier Ford. I just want to be clear here. Your government says that you guys are loosening or putting Peel in a red zone, and therefore there are restrictions. But you guys are actually loosening the restrictions from the modified stage 2 to the red zone. You referenced Dr. Lowe. Dr. Lowe had specifically asked your government or Dr. Williams to keep Peel Region in a modified stage 2 for at least another week. Why did your government not listen to what Dr. Lowe specifically requested?
So I'll tell you where Peel was going. Peel was going into the restrict, the orange level. After we ended up getting this notice from Dr. Lowe, he communicated with our Chief Medical Officer. And I guess we came up with and this has been going on all night, all day today. And it's not just Dr. Lowe. I have to listen to the mayors too. Mayor Thompson, which we were kind of playing telephone tag back and forth today, we never connected. Talked to Mayor Brown. I talked to Mayor Crombie. And, they were hesitant to close down restaurants. And then we have Dr. Lowe asking to stay in stage 2. And then I have to consult with our Chief Medical Officer. Colin, I'm telling you, it's not an easy decision. So there's a happy compromise, but we also have to protect the integrity of the framework. They've fallen, and everyone can see it. It's fully transparent. They have fallen into the and the control area. I apologize, the red zone, the control area. And once they fall into that, then they're in that zone until we get out. So I think it was a relatively fair compromise, again, trying to keep businesses going to a certain degree, keeping schools open, cooperating and collaborating with the mayors, working with the local public health officer, and working with the chief medical officer of Ontario. So you have everyone giving you advice, and I think it was a fair compromise. We're talking about a week. And again, Colin, I don't want to close these folks down, which we aren't closing them totally down, but I understand their concern too. But I go back again, Colin, you see the news as much as I do, and everyone at home. You see what's happening in the UK. There's lockdowns in France, UK, Ireland, Spain. It's running rampant. And I don't want to get into that position that we have to lock down the province again. It'd be terrible, absolutely terrible.
Follow-up?
Thank you, Premier. So I wanted to ask about the framework that you're talking about, this color-coded chart that a lot of people are now getting used to. We've spoken to multiple health experts who are saying that this is actually confusing, and that the thresholds that your government has set are way too high. In fact, we would have to get into what one official called Trump territory, how it's spreading in the United States, in order for us to really start to address the issue. I'm trying to understand here, how did you get to this criteria of 10% positivity rate, hospitals being on the verge of being overwhelmed, multiple outbreaks? How did you get to that specific criteria, and isn't that the inferno that you had been talking about earlier this week instead of the smoke?
Well, again, this is structured around preventative, as I say, preventative maintenance, being proactive before there is an inferno, as I used the example the other day. And we've rolled that out since Tuesday. We're going to keep moving forward, but it's being proactive too. When we see issues, to jump in there, to put more contact tracers in there, to have more pop-up centers in the hot areas. And that's what we're going to focus on. I'll pass the balance over to the Minister of Health. Thank you.
Well, we need to continue to be consistent with the decisions that we're making. We've set up the framework. It was designed after full consultation and advice from Dr. David Williams, the Public Health Measures Table, the many members at the modeling table as well. And there's other people who have volunteered to come forward. So this isn't just the advice of one person. Not every public health doctor is going to agree with this, but these are solid recommendations that have been brought forward by a number of public health experts, and that's what established the framework for us, and that's what we're working with now, so that there can be some certainty to the people of Ontario about where their public health region sits, and then be able to make their own decisions about what they want to do within their own region, whether they want to go out to dinner, whether they want to go to a gym or not. I think the personal responsibility aspect of it is also very important. So the framework is there for a number of reasons, but it was fully developed in consultation with public health experts.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Are you thinking of filing an employment standards claim? Here are a few things you need to know. Employees' rights are protected here in Ontario. If you believe your employer has violated the Employment Standards Act, often referred to as the ESA, and/or the Employment Protection for Foreign Nationals Act, or EFNA for short, you can file a claim for free online with the Ministry of Labour, Training and Skills Development at your own convenience. Visit ontario.ca/employment standards for more information on employee rights and employer obligations. Don't wait too long to file your claim. Typically, employees must file a claim within 2 years of the alleged ESA violation and 3.5 years of the alleged EFNA violation. Your right to file a claim is protected by law. It's illegal for your employer or a person acting on their behalf to threaten or punish you for filing a claim or preparing to file one. Your personal information, including your address, phone number, and email, will not be shared with your employer. However, details provided about the claim may be shared with your employer as part of the investigation. Once you start the process, you will be asked a series of questions to help the ministry better assess your claim. All information provided in the claim must be truthful to the best of your knowledge. Depending on the complexity of your claim, it may take up to an hour to complete the claim application. For additional information, please call the Employment Standards Information Center, toll-free at 1-800-531-5551 or 1-866-567-8893 for the TTY service. Information is available in many languages. Here is what you need to file an online claim with the Ministry of Labour, Training and Skills Development. You'll need internet access, an email address, and a computer or mobile device with a supported browser like Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, or Microsoft Edge. You can also sign up for the Claimant Portal, which will give you the ability to save a partially completed claim and return to it or check the status of your claim at any time. Using the portal is up to you. If you choose not to sign up for the Claimant Portal, you will need to complete your claim submission in one sitting, and you will not be able to log in later to check the status of your claim. There is another video outlining the Claimant Portal sign-up process at ontario.ca/ESA claims. Here are the steps to file a claim. Visit ontario.ca/ESA claims. Before you start the process of filing your claim, collect important documents about your work history. The types of documents that may come in handy will depend on your claim, but might include things like pay stubs, records of your hours worked, or your record of employment. You will be asked a series of preliminary questions. Once you've completed this process, you will be provided with the option to sign up for the Claimant Portal, or to proceed without signing up. You will need to fill in the claim form as best you can. You will be prompted if any mandatory information is missing. You can easily upload supporting documents in a variety of common file formats like PDFs, Word documents, or JPEGs. Then you will have an opportunity to review your claim. And if all the information is correct, you can submit it. You will receive your claim number immediately. You can make a note of it if you like, but a copy of your claim and a confirmation of filing letter will be emailed to you. The ministry will review your claims to ensure that you have provided all required information. Once your claim has been processed, it will be assigned for investigation and the investigating officer will contact you. We hope this video has been helpful. For more information or to file a claim, visit ontario.ca/ESA claims.
Good afternoon. My name is Adrian Dix. I'm BC's Minister of Health. To my right is Dr. Bonnie Henry, BC's Provincial Health Officer. This is our COVID-19 briefing for Thursday, November the 5th. We're honored to be here on the territories of the Lekwungen-speaking people of the Songhees and the Esquimalt First Nations. Tomorrow, Friday, you'll get a written report on case counts and other relevant information from Dr. Henry and myself at around 3 o'clock. And we'll be providing a briefing in person on Monday here in the Press Theatre. And with that, it's my honor to introduce Dr. Bonnie Henry.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. Today we are reporting 425 new cases of COVID-19 in British Columbia, including 4 epidemiologically linked cases, bringing our total number of cases to 16,560 in British Columbia. And for today, I'll report, starting today, I'll report on the new cases by health authority. 126 are in the Vancouver Coastal Health Authority, 268 people are in the Fraser Health Authority, 7 people are on Vancouver Island Health Authority, 8 people in Interior Health, and 6 in the Northern Health Authority. We have no new cases in people who normally reside outside of Canada. We now have 3,389 active cases in all health authorities in British Columbia, of whom 97 people are in hospital, 24 of whom are in critical care or ICU. We have had no new deaths in the last day, leaving our total at 273 people who have died from COVID-19 in BC. We now have 7,519 people around the province who are under active public health monitoring, and 12,806 people who have now recovered from COVID-19. Just to put in perspective, I want to, we have now, in the last 24 hours, the cases that we're reporting are from 11,020 tests that were done at labs around the province. That gives a provincial percent positive of 3.8%, again, a rise from what we have been seeing in the last few weeks. We have 2 new healthcare facility outbreaks at the Tabor home. This is the second outbreak at that facility, and Pine Grove Place in Fraser Health. And 1 outbreak has been declared over the Queen's Park Centre Care. That leaves us with 30 active outbreaks in our healthcare system, 28 in long-term care and assisted living, and 2 in acute care. We now have 1,118 people in long-term care have been affected, including 648 residents and 482 staff members. There have been no new community outbreaks, although we continue to have ongoing clusters in workplaces and other venues around the province. On the positive note, the outbreak at L'École de l'Alsosable in Kelowna has now been declared over, and students and staff will be back in class tomorrow. And I just want to extend my thanks and appreciation to the family and the school officials for their assistance in working with Interior Health to manage this challenging first outbreak that we had in a school setting. And I'd like to take as well this opportunity to remind parents about the importance of keeping our schools open and making sure we keep our social contacts small. This includes birthday parties with children outside your household, sleepovers with classmates, and I know this can be difficult and challenging for children, but I ask that you look to celebrate in smaller, other, safer ways right now. And a reminder as well to continue to check health authority websites for community and school exposures. There continues, as we all know, to be strong interest in the latest data of the pandemic that we are experiencing here in British Columbia. And next week, next Thursday, we will be providing a data modeling update and continue to do so as we have in the past on a periodic basis going forward. I also want to mention that the BC CDC has set up a new COVID-19 epidemiology dashboard for those who are interested, which shows what's happening in British Columbia compared to other jurisdictions in Canada and globally. Some of that information we've presented in some of the data presentations we've done in the past, but this is a dashboard that will be updated and publicly available twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. At the BC CDC COVID-19 data page, and it shows cases and testing information together, which gives you a sense of a more accurate picture of the state of the pandemic in each given location. So what it tells us is, for some places, there may be a very high testing rate and low numbers of cases, which shows us that many people may not be tested. For example, 2 countries could have the same number of cases, but a very different epidemic status if one country is testing a lot and the other isn't. So it's a way to help put what's happening to us, with us here in British Columbia, in context for people, for those who are interested. As we learn more about COVID-19 over the past number of months, we've been able to adapt our daily activities and continue many things in our communities around the province in a safe and responsible way. This is important for our overall mental, social, physical, and economic well-being, and a key goal in our COVID-19 response, to minimize the impact of this virus, both on the health system, on us individually, but on our communities. We've also adapted the guidance we have provided as our knowledge and understanding grows. And while I would like to note that while some recommendations change, the foundational layers of protection and the minimal but important province-wide orders that we have in place are our steady guideposts. There are some things that have not changed. That includes the basic measures that each of us as individuals need to take to make sure that we're doing our best to prevent transmission of this virus. And if I've said it once, I've said it many, many times. That's cleaning our hands regularly, making sure we cover our cough and not touch our face, keeping our safe distance, particularly from people we don't know if we're out in public spaces, and when we can't do that, making sure we use that extra layer of protection of wearing a mask when we're in indoor public spaces in particular. These orders that we have as well around gatherings, around situations where we know transmission has been in place, will continue and will continue to guide our way forward. But we will, as we've talked about in the last few weeks, look at our data about where events are happening in the province, and supplement is needed in areas of concern. Right now, we know some things are risky in areas like Metro Vancouver, where we are seeing increased numbers of cases. This includes group activities indoors, and we have seen this. We've seen this with spin classes in gyms. We've seen this with dance classes inside. We've seen it with activities where we get together now as the weather's getting cooler, where we congregate indoors. So if you know somebody in your social circle with COVID, that means that your risk is higher. If you live with parents or elders, or work in essential services or in healthcare, you need to refrain from these risky activities in these areas right now. As we look to the recent numbers, we're all concerned, and we're watching things closely, and we spent some time out in the Fraser Health region last week to supplement and to support the amazing work that the public health teams are doing there and doing in Vancouver Coastal and in other health authorities around the province. We did anticipate an increase as we moved indoors into the cooler weather, but it is incredibly important that we manage this increase effectively. And I am asking once again for your help to slow the spread of this virus in BC so that we can keep our schools, our businesses, and our communities open and safe. The greatest impact you can make is through those actions, small or big, that each of us takes every day. You can help by staying local, by only spending time with your household, or at most, your safe six, the same group, on a repeated basis, and by following your safety basics at work, at school, and at home. Right now, fewer faces, again, makes for safer spaces. And by staying small, we can ensure that those things that are important to our well-being can continue. If you need some encouragement, look no further than the children and teens who have so quickly adapted to these protective measures, particularly in schools. And I hear from young people all the time, and I appreciate all of the letters and the cards and the notes and the pictures that I get, where they have learned that this is something you can adapt to. You can play sports safely. You can dress up and have fun for Halloween outside in small groups or with your family at home. And young people have shown us that they are adaptable and can get through this storm. We need to use that energy and use that ability to the resilience that we see in young people to make sure that we can do this as a community as well. Let's remember that even though we think we are okay and have no symptoms at all, this virus can still be transmitted. And we need to be aware that our risk and the risk that others bring with us. In most cases, it is transmitted to those that we are closest to, whether it's in our family, whether it's a group of people that we spend time with, or whether it's in our workplace. And what we are seeing now is that this can have a very large ripple effect. It's having a ripple effect, unfortunately, in long-term care homes. And we're starting to see outbreaks again that are moving through long-term care homes. We're seeing it in group settings, particularly in the Lower Mainland, but around this province. And this is the time that we need to step back and go back to our basics. Our individual actions are incredibly important right now. Let's also remember that as the days get darker, there is lightness ahead. We know that we will get through this winter. We will get through the challenges of COVID-19. And we will do this as we have shown that we can do over the last 10 months, each of us doing our part, and by being kind and being calm and being safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Henry. And obviously I want to start by saying it's obviously, in spite of the very significant case numbers, a positive thing for us any day than where we report no one has passed away from COVID-19. But we know that 273 people have passed away in this pandemic. We know the impact that has on families. We know the challenges that presents in terms of mourning and celebrating the lives of the people we love. And so we think of all those people today, all of those families, all of those caregivers, and all those people currently in long-term care, especially in long-term care homes that are dealing with outbreaks, who are dealing with the difficulty and the challenge and the anxiety of those circumstances. So we think of them today, even on a day when no one passed away from COVID-19. As Dr. Henry has said, 425 cases is a significant number of cases. 97 people are hospitalized. That's 56 people in Fraser Health and 40 in Vancouver Coastal Health, 1 in Interior Health. And we have 24 people in critical care, which is -1 from yesterday. On Thursday, I report on two, and today on 3 major initiatives. One, the contact tracing recruitment initiative, the other, the second, the surgical renewal plan. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about influenza immunization in the province. But I wanted to note this about the healthcare system, that we are and will continue to be and continue to add resources to ensure we are 100% all in working not just in COVID-19, but in this time, in this moment. Never in my lifetime and time before that has the public health care system been so engaged with people in the community. I'm very proud of the people working in the public health care system, the members of the Doctors of BC and the Hospital Employees Union, the BC Nurses Union, the Health Sciences Association, the BCGU, and many others. I'm very proud of the work they're doing. And consider, from Dr. Henry's report, 7,519 people under public health monitoring, 3,389 active cases, 11,020 tests today. Consider that we've hired, in addition to the contact tracing capacity we had in place, almost 600 people, and I'll be reporting on that soon with more to come. Consider that in the month of October, we set records for the number of elective scheduled surgeries we've done, indeed of surgeries done in BC during a pandemic. Consider the efforts in long-term care and the increasing capacity that we're putting in play in long-term care, the fact that we've immunized more people at this point against influenza than at any time in recent years. Consider the work of environmental health officers in assisting the community in creating safe spaces to work in the community and more. Consider that the people who are buying PPE, when we announced it on Monday, bought 49 million masks that were brought in the last week, surgical masks to assist in our efforts, and 19 million pairs of gloves. We are all in this effort. With respect to the progress report on our contact tracing recruitment initiative, in the past week, 57 positions have been filled across all health authorities. To date, there have been 580 total hires. This surpasses the initial target, which was 500 announced in August, and represents 95.3% of the increased target of 608 positions. We now, as you know, have a new target of 800 positions. In addition to those 800 positions, the Ministry has provided approval to the First Nations Health Authority to hire 76 community health representative positions to support culturally safe contact tracing efforts within First Nations communities. In addition to that, in terms of new candidates, 78 candidates, in addition to the 580, are in the offer process, and 309 candidates are in the interview process. So the contact tracing initiative is going well. I wanted to note as well that 47 contact tracers have been redeployed to Fraser Health to support their efforts there. So I want to thank everyone involved in that initiative, including the people at Health Match BC. With respect to surgeries, happy to report that this week we have a significant increase, another excellent week in terms of surgeries. And I just wanted to restate the number from last week. Last week from October 19th to the 25th, The number of surgeries increased when the final number was established. So it was a couple of days after the preliminary number, which we announced for the week, at 7,213, the second highest number of surgeries this year, and significantly higher than we generally do at this time. This week, October 26th to November 1st, in the initial count, 6,894 surgeries were completed, of which 5,726 were scheduled surgeries and 1,168 were non-scheduled surgeries. Just to put it in context, since the announcement of the surgical renewal plan and its putting in place on May 18th, 118,125 surgeries have been performed, scheduled surgeries, 34,226 unscheduled surgeries, for a total of 152,351 surgeries in that period during a pandemic, which is an extraordinary achievement for our whole healthcare system. So I wanted to give an update with respect to influenza vaccine measures, vaccine supply and doses administered. BC has ordered, as you know, 1,970,000 doses of influenza vaccine so far, and is in the process of purchasing an additional 271,600 additional doses. This will provide a total of 2,241,600 doses of influenza vaccine for British Columbians for this flu season. Just to put that in context, last year that number was 1.5 million. So to date, 1,851,130 doses of flu vaccines have been distributed by the BC CDC to regional health authorities. And just for your understanding, to date, we know that over 500,000 doses of influenza vaccine have been administered to British Columbians, which is considerably above previous years at this time. In fact, we expect the number of doses administered is quite a bit higher than 500,000, as there is a reporting lag of up to 30 days from pharmacists and physicians. This is significant, as last year pharmacists delivered over half of the immunization vaccines in BC, and we're seeing similar trends this year. And I want to thank everybody who works in pharmacy, all of our pharmacists, all of our physicians, and all of our people in public health who do an extraordinary job. I had the occasion this week, my wife Renee and I signed up online to go to the Croatian Cultural Center, where public health delivered my flu shot, and they did, of course, an extraordinary professional job, and it was good to see many people in my community there. So I just want to say in closing that obviously we said on Monday that that weekend was a significant increase in anything we had seen in a previous weekend in terms of case counts, and today's 425 is a significant increase as well. The COVID-19 tide is rising. And as I said on Monday, the context of that is that most jurisdictions, the other jurisdictions that are equivalent or dealing with significant outbreaks of COVID-19 or in their provinces are at a higher level than we are. And obviously other countries in the world, for example, countries such as France, which are about a daily case number of 64 per 100,000, or close to 10 times what our 7-day rolling average is. But I don't think people care too much what it is in Paris or what it is in Dublin or what it is in Toronto. We care about what happens here in British Columbia. I think that this is our effort, and we have to do, all of us, our individual part to turn the tide on COVID-19. I wanted to say, and this is important because Dr. Henry, a week ago Monday, put in place a public health order with respect to gatherings in homes. And I think this is an important thing to say for everyone in BC, that no matter our age, right now, when it comes to house parties and gatherings, the message is simple: don't throw them, don't go to them. When it comes to house parties, we should all just say no to them. House parties, don't throw, don't go, say no, and stop the spread. Our BC COVID-19 response has proven time and again that as much as BC COVID-19 tries to increase its grip on our province, we have the means to stop the spread. We can fight and do that, and all of us need to work together to be 100% all in to do it together. It's who we are, it's what we do, and it's what we all need to continue to do. Je vais finir en français pour dire qu'aujourd'hui, nous annonçons 425 nouveaux cas qui ont testé positifs pour COVID-19 pour un total de 16 560 cas en Colombie-Britannique. Il n'y a eu aucun nouveau décès lié au COVID-19 aujourd'hui.
Pourtant, nous continuons à offrir nos condoléances aux familles et aux proches des 273 personnes qui ont perdu la vie durant cette pandémie. Chaque région de santé compte des patients atteints de COVID-19, bien entendu. 5223 se trouvent à Vancouver Coastal, 9707 à Fraser, 2081 sur l'île de Vancouver, 281 sur l'île de Vancouver, 821 dans l'intérieur et 438 au nord. Il y a aussi 90 cas de personnes qui vivent en dehors du Canada. Parmi l'ensemble des cas confirmés de COVID-19 en Colombie-Britannique, 97 personnes sont actuellement hospitalisées, dont 24 en soins intensifs. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. We're happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Minister. As a reminder, please press *1 to enter the queue. You are limited to one question and one follow-up. Please also take your phones off mute. You will not be audible until your name is called. First question today is from Binder Sujjan, CTV.
Hi there. I just wanted to ask you, I've been hearing from some community advocates saying that they would like more culturally relevant information and guidance. Fraser Health recently has started some of that by providing guidance on how to wear a mask over certain types of head coverings, for instance. And I'm just wondering if there's been guidance provided to health authorities to get some of this information out there and to, do different types of guidance for different types of groups.
Yes, and that is something that the health authorities do on a regular basis, and really it is very localized because they know their populations best. So the initiative that you're talking about in Fraser Health, there's initiatives that Vancouver Coastal has done with different population groups, and whether it's language groups or ethnic groups and different types of celebrations. So we do some, mostly through the BC CDC and through our provincial communications, but much of that is done at a local level with the local knowledge and populations. And I know there's a number of different languages, at least 14 different ones that I'm aware of that Fraser and Vancouver Coastal regularly use across BC. But yes, it's a very good point, and we'll try and make sure that we have appropriate things coming for the initiatives that are coming up or the events that are coming up as well to support people. Yeah.
I think this is a very important point. It was one of the considerations when we initially did our survey of people across BC in multiple languages and got responses from people from communities as to what they wanted to know, what they needed to know, what their assessment was of COVID-19. In the last number of months, I've done a significant number a significant amount of outreach personally, and I know many others have, to both cultural communities but also to younger people, because I think there's two sets of issues here. One is people perhaps in diverse communities is one set of issues, and the other is people of different ages who have different approaches and get information differently. I dare say, and I hesitate to say this in response to your question, maybe less from television news and more from other sources. So that's what's required. I think what you're going to see, in addition to the other things that we've done, I think close to a dozen meetings that I've had even in the last week personally and others, that you're going to see a significant campaign to get more of that information out starting early next week as well, in order to get that out, continue to get it out broadly in many diverse communities in BC. I think it's important to do, and it's important to empower leaders in communities, and especially young people in communities, to be able to have their voice heard and to be influencers, to be part of this effort to stop the spread of COVID-19 in BC. So there's significant actions been taken, as Dr. Henry rightly says, and we're going to, I think, be increasing that activity in the days to follow, and we'll have more information for you in the coming few days.
Binder, do you have a follow-up?
I do. Just want to ask you about the Seniors Advocate report that was released this week. And also, Dr. Henry, you said last week that changes were coming to visitor restrictions for long-term care, and just wondering what changes families can expect and when you think they might happen.
Yeah, I don't have all of the answers to that. We have obviously had ongoing conversations with the seniors advocate, and her report is well received. We are working through making sure that we have the appropriate things in place to be able to support increased visitation for those we know who need it and their families. So it is something that we have been working on, and there are many challenges that need to be overcome. Some of them have to do with the PPE and the staffing requirements, and those are coming along, so that's the good news. The more challenging news is, have we seen this week, that we have to be so careful because outbreaks can spread so rapidly in care homes. And it's not just me and my loved one that I need to be concerned about, but it's everybody in that setting. So finding that balance has been the most challenging thing that we have been faced with, knowing that this virus can be so devastating on our elders and seniors.
Next question is from Richard Zussman, Global News.
Dr. Henry, excuse me. I'm wondering if you could provide us some information about why there have been concerns raised that data is not being provided publicly around people in the healthcare system getting sick. Are you concerned that the lack of this data could expose some potential sort of shortages in our healthcare system?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, because I've heard some rumors about that, and I'm not entirely sure why there is this belief that that data is not shared. I've shared publicly our data on healthcare workers and what we know about it, I will say. And this was a challenge. I know I was asked whether we share it with Health Canada or with the Public Health Agency of Canada, and the answer is a qualified yes. We were sending what we call line list data as a field in our case report forms early on, but that information had been presented in a way that mischaracterized. So it was presented by StatsCan as healthcare workers who were infected in the work environment, and that is not the case. So I have presented healthcare worker data, for example, in a number of our data briefings, and made it very clear the caveats that we ask everybody if they're a healthcare worker, because it's an important thing to know whether we have to take measures to look at whether they worked whilst ill and infectious to others, and whether there were close contacts in a healthcare setting. As we know, very early on, when we had limited testing capacity, our focus was on testing healthcare workers to be sure that we caught everybody. And that continues. Healthcare workers are a focus of our testing program to make sure that we can prevent large outbreaks, and we've been on and off relatively successful about that. If you look at our long-term care facility outbreaks now, almost the vast majority of them in the recent weeks have been single healthcare worker case. Unfortunately, sometimes it can spread very rapidly. So that's a long way of saying that we did stop sharing line list data with the Public Health Agency in the spring, because they were sharing it in a way that didn't represent the data accurately. But we do share the aggregate data nationally, and I've presented it publicly, and the intent is to present an update next week. I can say that our percentage of healthcare workers who are infected has come down over the last few months. Not surprisingly, it's under 10%. And we also have some caveats about where people have been infected. And we know this from other studies as well. This is a community transmitted virus now. That means that our risk is in the community with our families when we go out to places, if we're participating in celebrations, if we're going to spin classes, other things. So there are many different settings that healthcare workers become infected in, and we'll be talking more about that in some detail next week.
Do you have a follow-up, Richard?
Is there any concern around, either because there are a number of healthcare workers sick, or because of overall hospitalizations? I think we're at hospitalization level now that we haven't seen since the end of April, that we could once again start seeing surgeries canceled and impacts on our larger healthcare system.
Yeah, that is something, of course, we're concerned about, and we've seen that unfortunately happen in other jurisdictions. We have a plan that we had presented, and Stephen Brown, the Deputy Minister, has been working very closely with all of the health authorities so that we have a tiered approach. So right now we are well within our planned ability to respond to cases both in hospital and in long-term care, not long-term care, in ICU. So we're not in danger, but it is very much a balance. And as you say, it may not be me as a healthcare worker being sick myself and being off, but the fact that I may have exposed a number of my colleagues, either because we attended events together, which has happened, or because we are together in carpooling back and forth to work, or in a lunchroom or other settings in the healthcare setting. So not only in the patient care areas. So it can be it can be an issue, and it has strained us. As you know, we've had a couple of acute care outbreaks where numbers of healthcare workers have been exposed and have had to be home isolating because of the risk. So yes, it is finding that balance. So far, we have not had to cancel the scheduled surgeries, and we're managing to keep things up. But this is all what we're talking about. As numbers increase in our community, we start to get more spillover into long-term care, into acute care, into other settings where there are more people at risk of having severe illness. And that's why it's so important that we take these measures now to reduce our social contacts so that we can keep the healthcare system functioning, so we can keep children in schools, so we can keep our businesses open as much as possible.
Marcella Bernardo, News 1130.
Hi, Dr. Henry and Minister Dix. I'm hoping to ask you today about the situation involving Dr. Tam now revising guidelines to acknowledge the aerosol transmission of this virus. And have you considered how many of the record-breaking cases we're now recording could have been prevented if more people followed your directives to always wear a mask inside public spaces?
Yeah, so I don't think Dr. Tam single-handedly has revised documents, as we've talked about a number of times. There is a continuum of how people are exposed to this virus, and we get it from breathing in droplets that somebody has coughed out, and those droplets can be of various sizes, and I've talked about this many times. In some cases, in some environments, particularly enclosed settings, so we're talking about there's been some public reports around a restaurant where there was limited ventilation, and the flow of air from a fan probably led to people being exposed. There's situations like a wedding where the father of the bride was close to each and every guest, gave them a hug, kissed them, and there was spread in that wedding situation that was indoors. So we know that in closed settings, and we've seen it here, of course, in some of the bars and nightclubs, and we've tried to reduce those potential for spread in those scenarios. So those are the scenarios where we can get broader spread to larger numbers of people. And those are the things that we have been taking the measures that we've put in place to try and reduce those possibilities. That's why we limit church groups to 50 with enough space between people. We know that we've had an outbreak in the interior in a church group that was probably related to singing, but it was contained because we had a limit on numbers of people that can be in that facility. So I can't tell you exactly how many are related to that necessarily. We know there's transmission in workplaces, but for the most part, what we're seeing from the investigations that public health is doing in each of those situations, what we see is that it's when people are sitting together in an enclosed space, whether that's carpooling to work together, whether that's sitting in the lunchroom together, having a break together in a small enclosed space, whether we're working together without using the precautions. We know some of the larger outbreaks we've had in places like poultry processing plants. It's large numbers of people in an indoor environment, colder weather, which we're learning again that this virus probably transmits more easily in less humid conditions and colder conditions. So those are all factors that we need to take into place. And what we've learned from the now 40 million people around the world and the outbreaks that we're seeing is that when you have those layers of protection in place, that's what stops those transmission events. And wearing a mask is a really important layer that adds an additional layer of protection.
Do you have a follow-up, Marcella?
I do. It's regarding the seniors report that came out this week. I know Binder already asked about this, but I have been talking to people who are saying that they don't understand why they have to suffer in areas like Kamloops when they want to be close to loved ones who just want to be touched by their loved ones, who the people that are dying now, many of them are not dying from COVID. They're dying from whatever conditions they already have, and their time is limited. So what can be done to try to make allowances for people outside the Fraser Health region, outside the Lower Mainland, that are desperate to try to spend more time with their loved ones?
And I hear that. I know it's very challenging. We are working with the care home operators, the people who work in the care homes, to make sure that we can put in these measures. As I said, it is the most challenging and wicked problem that we're dealing with. I don't know if you want to address that.
Obviously since June the 28th, when we started we've had consistently essential visitors throughout the pandemic. When we started having what we call regular visits on June 28th, we said we were going to also provide and support the long-term care homes with more supports and more staff. And this is an absolutely necessary precondition of a significant expansion of visits in the pandemic. I think it's pretty clear as to why. And so that effort has gone out. More than $100 million has gone out to support that effort, and we are making really an unprecedented effort when you look at the increase in staffing, which is $110 million to get to the 3.36, the $160 million to support visitation, the 7,000, of which that's part, the 7,000 new healthcare workers that we're putting in place. All of this isn't for other reasons than to improve infection control, improve the quality of life for seniors in long-term care, and of course to support visits. So it's our hope that we can do that soon. But really, as Dr. Henry has said, and I want to emphasize this, this is a week when we've had outbreaks. Our first outbreak, for example, in long-term care in the Northern Health Authority in Dawson Creek, that this can hit us everywhere. And so what we need to think about all over British Columbia is what happens when we take actions to stop the spread. It helps us expand visits in long-term care, because people who work in long-term care and people who visit their loved ones in long-term care, and it's just so that everyone understands, it's my family as well, and I feel it this very personally, that all of that is made possible when we take steps ourselves to stop the spread. So I want people, if they can, to understand the value for other people in what we can do right now to do that. And following the guidance put forward by Dr. Henry and her colleagues is so important, and it is itself an important element of our efforts to increase visits in long-term care. But you may know this is an area for both Dr. Henry and myself where we talk to people regularly, we hear from people regularly, we respond to people who talk to us about it regularly. The survey put forward by the Seniors Advocate told us in that sense what we already know, but it puts out in paper how people are feeling and the powerful impact of that we know. And so the task in this is not just to deal with COVID-19, but whether it's visits in long-term care or other issues in society, the other public health emergency of the overdose crisis, to deal with the consequences of the actions we have to take in pandemic. And that's why it's so important for all of us to recommit to stopping the spread.
Next question is from Brenna Owen, Canadian Press.
Hi there, thank you. I'm just wondering, so Fraser Health has really emerged as kind of the epicenter or a hotspot of the pandemic in BC. And I'm just wondering what other factors besides, there's more virus circulating in those communities could be fueling the increases there?
Well, the more virus circulating is certainly part of it, and I really want to emphasize, we have geographical boundaries that we use for administrative purposes, but this virus doesn't recognize those boundaries, and it really is across Metro Vancouver that we're seeing issues, and it's different in different areas of Metro Vancouver. But I will note that particularly in what we call the Fraser Health region, that is where a large proportion of essential workers live. So people who have been going to work, whether that's in healthcare, whether that's working in poultry processing or vegetable and fruit growing or trucking, we have a large proportion of people who are living in that region. And as you know, we report cases by area of residence. So people may be living in that region, but going back and forth to work in different areas of the province, going back and forth to the United States for certain trucking and essential services, etc. So that is a large part of why we're seeing concentrations, but we're also seeing that there are large parties, family gatherings even. They may be smaller than 50, but there are multiple ones where we've seen transmission to multiple generations. We also know that some of the accommodations for people like temporary farm workers and others are sites where we can see more increased spread very rapidly. Some of the businesses that we've seen. We also, of course, have all of our, a large number of our provincial correctional facilities and federal correctional facilities are all in that region. So it's a combination of, we have a huge number of concentrated risky environments and people who work and live in that area.
Do you have a follow-up, Brenna?
Sure. Just quickly, it doesn't sound like you're pondering regional restrictions like some other jurisdictions have done, but I'm just wondering about the concentration of public health resources in hotspots and whether there's more targeted messaging or measures that could be suggested.
Yeah, and we absolutely have been doing that. Our approach has always been to have the minimum provincial measures that affect those settings where we see transmission events happening. And as you know, things like we saw parties in resorts and vacation rentals, and so we put in limitations, recognizing that it wasn't just interior health. And as a public health service, we are supplementing and supporting each other where these hotspots spring up. So we've had interior health in the summer. We've had issues in the north where we've had to support the public health workforce there. And again, in the lower mainland or Metro Vancouver in particular now, yes, we're making sure that we have surge resources to support in those areas now. I think relatively unscathed has been Vancouver Island, although we do have occasional cases and clusters over here as well.
Next question is from Rob Brown, Dawson Creek Mirror.
Thanks for taking my call today. Just about reducing social contact and whatnot. We've got our school divisions up here allowing third-party users of their groups, volleyball groups, rec clubs, that sort of thing. Is it something the province is looking at more on I guess, Minister of Education basis for something more consistent across the province, or is this something you're also leaving up to kind of the more regional school districts?
So you're talking about other groups using facilities?
Yeah, like I would, as an example, up here the Dawson Creek Volleyball Club or the City of Fort St. John Recreation Volleyball League in Fort St. John, for example.
So we have a group, we call it our Safe Reopening Working Group, that includes public health inspectors who do a lot of this work. It's based at the BC CDC, but we also have WorkSafe BC, and we've connected with many different groups, including sports groups. So this is an area that we've paid attention to. So in terms of using of a school outside of school hours, that would be up to the local community, and certainly that could be supported as long as it didn't interfere with children coming back and forth to the school. So those things would be made, those decisions would be made on a local basis. We also have guidance for sports and recreational groups about, making sure that we're not seeing interprovincial travel, for example, among sporting groups this year. And there's layers of, or levels of allowance for different types of activities to happen. Some sports we've recommended not be played this year, things where you can't maintain distances. We know that some are riskier than others in terms of team sports, and there's guidance for spectators, reducing numbers of spectators, how the team interacts before and after. But I think you raise a really good point. It's really important right now for us to continue to support children and the school communities, and that may mean that young people are not participating in multiple after-school groups, because that does increase our risk of coming in contact with many people, with more people who may introduce the virus into our group. So these are tough decisions for this year, for this COVID time, where we have to say, what are the one group that we want to be involved with outside of our school cohort or our school learning group, so that we're not exposing our family and our community to increased risk. I did want to actually just go back and finish my thought from the last question, in that we have provincial level baseline that addresses situations that are same around the province. But yes, we are also looking at discussing with regions whether they need to take additional measures that are specific to issues or situations they're seeing within their region. And we see that on an occasional basis where specific business will be closed down until an inspection and a safety review can be done, and the COVID safety plan measures are put in place. And that happens at a local level. And we are absolutely, and I think I mentioned this last week, in discussions about whether we need to take an additional actions for some of the risky things that we're seeing in Metro Vancouver.
Do you have a follow-up, Rob?
Yes, I do. You mentioned exactly what I wanted to touch upon. Safe Six, and specifically young people and reducing exposures. I'm just going to run you through an example of a student's day, and just want to get your reaction. If a student wakes up, does their morning routine, goes to daycare, then takes the bus to school, does everything that goes on at a school on a regular elementary school day, then takes the bus to daycare, then is taken to, say, a karate class or a gymnastics then a gymnastic class, and then home. Is that an example of keeping your Safe Six, or is that more of an example of somebody's habits and a daily schedule that might be something that should be reduced for fear of spread?
Again, none of these things are black and white. So I would say it depends. It depends on where I live in the province. It depends on how many people in my karate class are my siblings. It depends on if I live in a large family with the elders, or I have regular contact with seniors in my life. So it may be perfectly okay for some children. It may be that my preschool and after-school care and the bus to get back and forth are all with the same group that are part of my cohort at school or my learning group at school. So there are many different variables, but I do say in general, this is a year where we need to consider not expanding our bubbles and doing those things that we might usually do by having a number of different groups where we interact in situations like a gymnastics class, like indoor settings where we may have the probability of transmission of this virus, or bringing it home and spreading it to others. So it is partly situational dependent, but this year we need to reduce our social interactions and those potentially optional interactions. And I say that potentially because we all know how valuable it is for physical exercise to have music and arts in our lives, and how that enriches our lives and keeps us healthy in other ways. So we need to make choices this year about which of those are important for us right now, and recognize that this is not forever. And, I hear so much from young people about they get that. And they can get through this, and they can adapt to it. And we all need to take that attitude as well. This will build resilience and will help us appreciate next year when we can expand and we can get together again in ways that we want to.
We have time for one more question. For everyone listening today, Dr. Henry and Minister Dix will release a statement this afternoon with the latest information on cases, hospitalizations, and outbreaks, which you can find at news.gov.bc.ca for medical guidance on protecting families and communities, and for access to provincial guidance on COVID-19, visit bccdc.ca, and for information about the province's pandemic supports, visit gov.bc.ca/COVID-19. Last question is from Tanya Fletcher, CBC.
Hi, Dr. Henry. As I'm sure you know by now, people love specifics, and I think hearing anecdotes are helpful in getting the message across. So I just want to go back to an example you briefly touched on earlier about, I think it was the father of the bride. Just wondering, when was that wedding and how many people were affected by the virus as a result?
Yeah, so that wasn't in BC. That's a report that's been in the media. That was not in the media, in the literature. It's one of the examples that we've come to understand. So this virus is one that we now call. It's not like influenza. With influenza, the incubation period is very short. People get sick within 1 to 3 days of being exposed, and we can be infectious to others in that period of time. So it moves through populations really quickly, and it affects everybody. With this virus, most people, the incubation period is longer. It can be up to 2 weeks. Most people get sick about day 5, day 7 after they've been exposed. So we have a period of time where we can take people out of harm's way, essentially, and monitor them. We don't have any drugs right now or medications that help us stop you from getting sick, but we can remove you from those situations where you might be infecting others. But we've also learned that some people can transmit this virus before they realize they're sick. So that's where we get into that challenging period where we want to make sure we're not in group situations with large numbers of people indoors, crowded, close to each other, sharing food and drinks, talking, kissing loudly, kissing, those sorts of things where we know we can spread this virus very quickly. So this was a wedding that took place in the U.S. There was over 200 people who attended, and I believe there was something like 100 and some who became ill, including some people who died. And the thought was, well, if it hadn't been the father of the bride, if it had just been a guest, maybe it wouldn't have spread that much. But the challenge we have is those opportunities for us unknowingly to bring it into a situation where we're in close contact with people and can spread it. Our example I used last week was the tragedy of a woman in her 80s who went to a very small party in a home in Metro Vancouver where there were under 10 people there, and 3/4 of them became ill, and she died, unfortunately. So we've seen lots of those little clusters or what we call super spreader events where the situation is what allows it to be spread to so many people. That's why I get so fussed about keeping our numbers small. We had a church outbreak in the interior where there were less than 50 people at the service. Somebody, unfortunately, was unknowingly shedding the virus. They had a lot of singing, and some people at that church service became ill, even though they were ostensibly trying to keep their distance and making sure that they weren't having tea afterwards and things like that. But it can happen. So that's why it's so important for all of us to reduce those situations. We've heard about the spin class in Ontario where 60-some people were infected. We know there's been spin classes here in BC where we've had 20 or 30 people being infected. Right now, spin classes in Metro Vancouver are dangerous. We should not be doing those things. We need to find other ways, I should say indoor spin classes. The outdoor ones, we haven't seen transmission. But those are the types of situations where we need to pay attention to how much virus is in the community and what types of risks we're potentially exposing ourselves to. And, I have to say I've not been to a spin class myself, but we're in bikes, people are sweating, I have seen them. And, there's usually loud music and you're in an indoor space and people are breathing heavily. The instructor is shouting instructions. Right now, in Metro Vancouver, that is dangerous. We should not be doing that. Let's find other ways of keeping our gyms open, of having exercise that people need for their health and well-being.
Do you have a follow-up, Tanya?
Yes, please. So given that, you just said how dangerous they are, why aren't those places, perhaps going to be shut down? And going back to what you mentioned about the church, and you mentioned a few minutes ago about family gatherings, I think it was when talking about the Fraser Valley at some events and weddings where people respected the limit of 50 people or fewer. But if the spread is still happening, is there a consideration, and when would that be, to limit that size further? And going back to the gyms, and what would be the next step to shut those places down as we head into the cooler weather? And an answer in French, please. Thank you.
So, the overall guidance that we have addresses all of those situations. And what we've said is, we can't expect there to be 0 cases because we know this virus is spreading. What we need to do, and what we all need to work together to do, is minimize the number of people that we're spreading it to, and make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect those people who we know are more likely to end up in hospital or to die from this virus. So much of it depends on our own personal situation and the elders and seniors in particular in our lives. But yes, local public health did take action in each of those situations I was talking about to address the individual situations, the individual business, the individual gym, and those are the types of things that we are putting out here so people understand. You need to understand the risks in the situations you're going into. There are many other situations, and local public health is addressing each of those under the provincial framework that we have.
I was going to say, Dr. Henry, in some years I've done hundreds of spin classes, but this year, 0. No spinning this year. And I think there's good reason for that. And I think with respect to the question of gatherings, the maximum in a private residence is 6 guests. And if you're in Metro Vancouver, you should seriously consider whether 6 is appropriate. And that's because it's different in people's homes. And so when we talk about weddings and other gatherings, frequently there are parties associated with that both before and after, as we know. And it's in those events and multiple of those events that we've seen transmission in recent weeks. So, the message is the same. No parties, don't throw them. En français, je dirais qu'il est essentiel actuellement, surtout dans la région de Vancouver, mais partout dans la province, parce que à l'intérieur, il y a beaucoup plus de cas actifs qu'avant aussi. Mais il est essentiel que des gens suivent des conseils de la santé publique, c'est-à-dire que chez eux, un maximum de 6 personnes, Et si on vit de la région de Vancouver, notre préférence serait 0, n'est-ce pas? Donc, pas de soirée. Et c'est difficile parce qu'on vit actuellement une période où il y a beaucoup de fêtes, des fêtes religieuses et d'autres fêtes. Mais il est essentiel cette année, pour actuellement, pour aujourd'hui et demain et les mois qui suivent, que des gens n'invitent pas beaucoup de monde chez eux, un maximum de 6, et qu'ailleurs, dans les endroits où il y a un plan pour combattre le Covid-19 dans un restaurant ou quoi que ce soit, de suivre les conseils de la santé publique aussi. Donc, c'est absolument essentiel en ce moment de suivre ces conseils, surtout dans la région de Vancouver, mais partout dans la province. On vit dans une pandémie internationale. Et dans d'autres pays, on voit les effets. Dans d'autres provinces, on a une situation beaucoup plus sévère que la nôtre, mais quand même, ici en Colombie-Britannique, 425 cas, c'est trop. Et il faut prendre l'action
la santé publique est en train et a pris l'action depuis des mois et des mois et des mois, et ça va continuer, mais tout le monde doit les suivre. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. We'll see you on Monday.
Thank you for joining us.
Hi everyone, I'm Evan, a youth recreation programmer for the City of Toronto's Community Development and Youth Unit, and I work at Parkway Forest Community Centre in the Enhanced Youth Space, also known as De Lounge. If you have ever been to or are thinking about going to De Lounge or one of our other Enhanced Youth Spaces, you may or may not know about some of the amazing programs we have for youth. One program that I'm really excited to tell you about is called Social, Environmental, Education, Entrepreneurship, Design Program, or SEED for short, as I like to call it, and I'm the SEED leader. In these short videos, I'll introduce you to some of the topics that will be covered in the SEED program. Each video lesson has a simple task that you can complete at home to increase your SEED knowledge. So stay tuned, follow along, thanks for watching, and happy growing.
online, on the phone, and in person. We are transforming the way we do business to provide all Canadians with the benefits and services they need. Every year, and from every corner of the country, we help deliver more than $120 billion in benefits and interact with Canadians over 140 million times a year. We're committed to giving Canadians what you want, a world-class experience, delivering benefits and services when you need them, accurate and consistent service no matter where you live, a resolution to your issues the first time you contact us, 100% accessibility with digital by choice everywhere, and we continue to improve. Planning a trip? We offer passport services at more than 300 Service Canada centres across Canada. We've also cut employment insurance wait periods in half, and more Canadians are receiving the Guaranteed Income Supplement and Old Age Security through automatic enrollment. But we're not stopping there. We're developing digital tools that will give you access to our services 24/7. You will have the flexibility of using our services wherever you are, any time of day, through a user-friendly mobile application. Our service transformation is also about a different way of working. It's about listening to Canadians, asking them how they want to access our programs and benefits. It's also about designing, building, and testing solutions with our clients and employees, and delivering easy-to-use digital services. This is just the beginning of the work we are doing to create an awesome service experience, supported by modern and convenient tools that both employees and Canadians want to use. To find out more about the ESTC service strategy and how we are transforming the way we do business, click the link below the video.
My name is Jill Roberts. I'm a passport officer. I work at the St. John's location in Newfoundland. I found out the need to help process CERB applications mainly when we close for the public. So we went from administering 30 to 35 passports a day to only going based on an urgent need. And then of course, once the CERB opened up, this was a program that had no employees prior to this, as it was really set up as a response to the pandemic. So it kind of made sense for us who were displaced a little bit with our daily routine, because of course the CERB needed employees as well. A lot of times people are just so grateful to be able to talk to a person, have someone walk their concerns through with them, break down, just having that kind of contact, to have someone feel so reassured after making contact with them and knowing that you were kind of able to affect their day for the better, it makes it worth it for me.
Canadians are living longer. In fact, you could spend more than 30 years in retirement. It's important to know how you'll fund it and how the Canada Pension Plan, CPP, retirement pension can help. If you worked in Canada between the ages of 18 and 70 and you paid into the CPP, you're eligible for the retirement pension. The more you worked, earned, and contributed, the more you'll get. The standard age to start receiving your retirement pension is 65, but you can choose to take it any time after you reach age 60. The later you take it, the more money you'll get each month. In fact, you could more than double your pension if you wait the 10 years until age 70. Once you start receiving your pension, it will give you monthly payments for the rest of your life. These payments increase each year with the cost of living. The CPP isn't meant to meet all your financial needs in retirement. It works with old age security to provide a modest financial base that you can build on with your savings and other income. So, how much will you receive from the CPP? You can get an estimate of what your monthly CPP payment will be through your My Service Canada account. You can also use the Canadian Retirement Income Calculator to get an estimate of your overall retirement income. For more information on the CPP and to apply online, visit canada.ca/CPP.
Hey everyone, it is Farmhand Mike, and I am back out at Convoy Dairy Farm near Convoy, Ohio with Hull Ag Services as they are chopping the 2020 corn crop here. Hull Ag Services currently runs a John Deere 9800i forage harvester, but today we had a little excitement. K&L Tractor out of Fort Recovery, Ohio brought out a new Kloss Jaguar 990, and Kenfeld Equipment out of Van Wert, Ohio brought out a new John Deere 990i forage harvester. Ran the two machines side by side, did some comparison, operators switched seats and whatnot. I'm going to have a longer video coming, but when we got all done, we want to have a little fun here, put all three machines together to fill one truck. Just putting a short 5-minute video here together for you, just showing you some of the fun we had. These guys are all professional operators. You will see some places there where the corn silage is blowing out of the truck, and these guys actually did that on purpose. There's a couple spots in this field that needed some organic matter, so they did it strictly for the soil health in those spots in the field. All kidding aside, we had a great time out here comparing machines, whatnot. I'll be doing a couple different videos here. We'll do the comparison video, and then we'll also do one of the farm, just taking off the 2020 corn crop, putting it on the silage pile and whatnot back at the farm. All three machines have a corn head on them capable of taking 12 rows of 30-inch corn. So 36 rows of corn going here into the truck at one time. Well, actually, maybe 35 rows of corn. It looks like the middle chopper maybe went in one row too early. It doesn't take long to fill a truck with one of these choppers, let alone 3 of them. Anyways, feel free to hit that like button and comment below and let me know your thoughts. And just like that, one truck is full and another one will be pulling up. All right, here we go for truck number 2. that is going to wrap up this video, but before we got all done, we lined everything up in the field for some photography. As you can see here, put the whole gang together. Anyways, stay tuned. I got a ton of corn silage videos coming to the channel, and you can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at Farmhand Mike. As I said, feel free to comment below, hit that like button, and thanks for watching.
Nature Fresh Farms. Innovation, quality, accountability. Nature Fresh Farms was established by Peter Quiring in 2000. Recognizing the growing demand for bell peppers, Nature Fresh Farms focused our propagation on a variety of colored peppers for fresh consumption. In 2009, Nature Fresh began construction on yet another 31 acres of glass greenhouses. Completed in early 2010, this fourth phase of Nature Fresh Farms' operation is devoted entirely to the production of cluster tomatoes. This new acreage produces 7 million kilograms of TOVs, or tomatoes on the vine, annually. Investing heavily in the latest technology and construction techniques, our fully automated greenhouses incorporate technologies from around the world, including our associated company South Essex Fabricating, a manufacturer of plastic and glass greenhouses, as well as complete heating systems and greenhouse automation. This makes Nature Fresh Farms a completely vertically integrated company, allowing us to provide top quality produce in high volumes at a competitive retail rate. At Nature Fresh Farms, food safety and traceability are key elements to the success of Nature Fresh Farms' operation.
Nature Fresh has achieved the highest standard of food safety certification available today. Basically, what Nature Fresh comes down to is high-tech automation with traditional farming.
Designating superior GMP and GAP ratings, Nature Fresh Farms is also HACCP certified. The Nature Fresh Farms tomato provides about 1/2 of the recommended daily allowance of vitamin C and 20% of the recommended daily allowance of vitamin A. Nature Fresh Farms tomatoes are also a great source of fiber, carbohydrates, potassium, and iron, and are low in fat and sodium. The Nature Fresh Farms bell peppers are low in saturated fats, cholesterol, and sodium. They're a good source of dietary fiber, vitamins A, C, and E. The nutritional value of Nature Fresh Farms produce makes them ideal for maintaining optimum health and weight loss. We maintain complete transparency and take absolute accountability within the food supply chain. Our traceability initiative allows us to trace the product all the way back to a specific section of the greenhouse. It's estimated that up to 17 different people in the food supply chain have touched your produce before it's even purchased. We've insisted on higher than necessary safety certifications, requiring our pickers and packers to wear gloves and hairnets when handling the product. Long a leader in the industry, Nature Fresh Farms is recognized for our ability to provide consistent quality and high yields.
I think I was about 6 years old when my dad first got into the business. Ever since then, I've been watching him very closely, seeing him and his great passion, dedication to that. I think that's rubbed off on me. Right now, I'm doing quality assurance here at the greenhouses. Basically what we're looking for here, broad shoulders on the top, 3-4 lobes on the bottom, and nice thick walls, which makes a great tasting pepper, and as well great looking. With a family business, it's your name that's on the line, so it makes you care that much more.
Water testing is performed every week, sending away samples to be analyzed. From this data, we're able to make new fertilizer recipes. Our water management and nutrient recirculation system sees our water going through a strict sterilization process where we're able to reuse our drain water. With an eye on ergonomical efficiency, Nature Fresh Farms has incorporated labor-friendly steel gutters that give greater accuracy and ease the leveling of the crop support units. These steel gutters allow for almost exact leveling, which provides ideal nutrient water levels within each slab. That makes the growing conditions within each slab exactly the same. In addition, Nature Fresh Farms growing troughs have been raised off the ground, providing a more consistent temperature for the slab. In a constant effort to use more efficient heating systems, a wood boiler featuring a walking floor developed by our sister company South Essex Fabricating is being used to turn demolition wood into fuel. And it's another innovative way Nature Fresh Farms is leading the way in automation and environmental sustainability. By introducing state-of-the-art growing technologies, as well as a highly technical labor tracking system, Nature Fresh Farms has remained competitive by reducing costs and maintaining quality. The pipe rail system is used for transporting hot water, but is also used to transport electric carts used by staff tending to the plants. The double heat rail system controls heat and humidity, creating a perfect growing environment for the plant. Our growers can control the climate to the plant's specific needs.
The computer system allows us basically to maintain an optimum growing temperature, humidity, even light conditions if you have a shade curtain or something like that. Our fans, our irrigation, our fertilizer injection. It's basically one program that controls every aspect within the entire greenhouse. This allowing our growers to achieve the exact temperature regime that they want, giving us a good quality and a good tasting fruit. From temperature, climate, to irrigation and fertilizer amounts and energy usage and even distribution throughout the whole facility.
The scouting team at Nature Fresh Farms keeps the plants clean, tend to the plants, twisting and pruning them as needed, and recommend biological actions to the growers when necessary. Our integrated pest management system effectively allows us to use good bugs to keep the bad bugs out with aphid banks. Bees are used for pollination, and bug lights catch moths. The trolley system is another innovation commonly used in Europe, but unique in North America. They lower automatically with the weight of the product and are gently dumped automatically in response to packing demand. A unique funnel system allows Nature Fresh Farms peppers to be gently rolled from greater heights into packing crates, while the tomato line features total automation. From the auto carts to the unloader, from the lifter to the labeler, and the pre-stacker to the palletizer, we've ensured once again that no hands have touched any Nature Fresh Farms produce along the line. Nature Fresh Farms will continue to lead the way in the decades to come with innovative research, a commitment to the highest possible standards, and a guarantee to provide the highest quality produce at the most cost-effective prices. From the farm gate to your dinner plate, you have our word on it.
Canadians are living longer. In fact, you could spend more than 30 years in retirement. It's important to know how you'll fund it and how the Canada Pension Plan, CPP, retirement pension can help. If you worked in Canada between the ages of 18 and 70 and you paid into the CPP, you're eligible for the retirement pension. The more you worked, earned, and contributed, the more you'll get. The standard age to start receiving your retirement pension is 65, but you can choose to take it any time after you reach age 60. The later you take it, the more money you'll get each month. In fact, you could more than double your pension if you wait the 10 years until age 70. Once you start receiving your pension, it will give you monthly payments for the rest of your life. These payments increase each year with the cost of living. The CPP isn't meant to meet all your financial needs in retirement. It works with old age security to provide a modest financial base that you can build on with your savings and other income. So, how much will you receive from the CPP? You can get an estimate of what your monthly CPP payment will be through your My Service Canada account. You can also use the Canadian Retirement Income Calculator to get an estimate of your overall retirement income. For more information on the CPP and to apply online, visit canada.ca/CPP. www.ncbi.ca/CPP.
Online, on the phone, and in person, we are transforming the way we do business to provide all Canadians with the benefits and services they need. Every year, and from every corner of the country, we help deliver more than $120 billion in benefits and interact with Canadians over 140 million times a year. We're committed to giving Canadians what you want, a world-class experience, delivering benefits and services when you need them, accurate and consistent service no matter where you live, a resolution to your issues the first time you contact us, 100% accessibility with digital by choice everywhere, and we continue to improve. Planning a trip? We offer passport services at more than 300 Service Canada centres across Canada. We've also cut employment insurance wait periods in half, and more Canadians are receiving the Guaranteed Income Supplement and Old Age Security through automatic enrollment. But we're not stopping there. We're developing digital tools that will give you access to our services 24/7. You will have the flexibility of using our services wherever you are, any time of day, through a user-friendly mobile application. Our service transformation is also about a different way of working. It's about listening to Canadians, asking them how they want to access our programs and benefits. It's also about designing, building, and testing solutions with our clients and employees, and delivering easy-to-use digital services. This is just the beginning of the work we are doing to create an awesome service experience supported by modern and convenient tools that both employees and Canadians want to use. To find out more about the ESTC service strategy and how we are transforming the way we do business, click the link below the video.
My name is Jill Roberts. I'm a passport officer. I work at the St. John's location in Newfoundland. I found out the need to help process CERB applications mainly when we close for the public. So we went from administering 30 to 35 passports a day to only going based on an urgent need. And then of course, once the CERB opened up, this was a program that had no employees prior to this, as it was really set up as a response to the pandemic. So it kind of made sense for us who were displaced a little bit with our daily routine, because of course the CERB needed employees as well. A lot of times people are just so grateful to be able to talk to a person, have someone walk their concerns through with them, break down, just having that kind of contact, to have someone feel so reassured after making contact with them and knowing that you were kind of able to affect their day for the better, it makes it worth it for me.
Flying a drone has changed the way that I see the world. This is how I see things differently.
Over the past few days, we've seen record cases of COVID-19 across the country, and it's a cause for concern. Behind each new number is a friend, a parent, a neighbor, or a senior. People's lives are at stake, and we all need to do our part. So follow your local public health guidelines, wear a mask, and keep a safe 2-meter distance from one another, and download the COVID Alert app. It's easy, it's free, and with over 4.8 million downloads, it'll help you do your part to protect your friends and loved ones. Together, we will get through this. Au cours des derniers jours, nous avons enregistré des nombres records de cas de COVID-19 un peu partout au pays. La situation est inquiétante et il faut la prendre au sérieux. Chaque nouveau cas, ce n'est pas seulement un chiffre ou une statistique, c'est un ami un membre de notre famille, un voisin ou une personne âgée. Quand la vie des gens est en jeu, il est important de tous faire notre part. Continuer de suivre les directives locales de santé publique, porter un masque, respecter la distance sécuritaire de 2 mètres et télécharger l'application gratuite Alerte COVID. Since the pandemic started, many folks have found themselves working from home. And in cases where they've needed to self-isolate, most Canadians have been able to do so because they have a roof over their heads. But imagine if you didn't have a home, especially during a Canadian winter. Sadly, that's the reality for far too many Canadians, and our government is taking action to change that. Since 2015, we've created a national strategy to make housing a priority, with thousands of units constructed and provided affordable housing for over 1 million people. We took this issue seriously since forming government, and now that the pandemic has made housing needs more acute, we're stepping up again. Last month, Minister Hussen announced an investment of $1 billion for the new Rapid Housing Initiative. The goal of the program is to give the most vulnerable a safe place to live by quickly creating up to 3,000 new affordable housing units. Today, I can share more details about how this funding will be used. The Rapid Housing Initiative will be equally split between the major cities stream and the projects stream. Right now, our largest cities face a growing need for safe and affordable housing. We're investing $500 million for immediate support to build long-term housing for municipalities that have the highest demand. We've also opened up applications for the second half of funding through the projects stream. Today's announcement is part of our commitment to eliminate chronic homelessness in Canada, as we announced in the throne speech, while also creating good jobs in the housing and construction sectors. Aujourd'hui, j'annonce que notre plan d'1 milliard de dollars pour soutenir les Canadiens vulnérables dans le cadre de l'initiative pour la création rapide de logements sera divisé en 2 volets, le volet Grandes Villes et le volet Projet. En ce moment, nos plus grandes villes font face à une demande croissante pour des logements sûrs et abordables. Nous investissons donc 500 millions de dollars dans l'aide immédiate à la construction de logements à long terme pour les municipalités où la demande est la plus forte. La deuxième moitié du montant ira pour le volet Projet, qui acceptera des demandes pour les municipalités, les provinces et les territoires, ainsi que pour les organisations sans but lucratif et les corps dirigeants autochtones. L'annonce d'aujourd'hui s'inscrit dans notre engagement à éliminer l'itinérance chronique au Canada, comme nous l'avons annoncé dans le discours du trône, tout en créant de bons emplois dans les secteurs du logement et de la construction. Canada is now in the second wave of this pandemic. That comes with new challenges for small business owners, and as I told the Canadian Chamber of Commerce yesterday, we're stepping up to help, as we have since day one. Earlier this month, we announced that we would strengthen the programs that have been a lifeline for small businesses by introducing an extended wage subsidy, which covers up to 65% of eligible wages. Business owners like Steve and Cami of Steve's Poke Bar in BC will be able to keep their employees on the payroll. For support on rent, the new Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy will go directly to businesses, not to landlords. And those who have to close temporarily because of a local public health order will be eligible for an additional 25% support. That brings the total of 90% of rent covered for the hardest hit businesses. And to help cover other costs, we've expanded the eligibility for the Canada Emergency Business Account while increasing the total amount to $60,000. Depuis hier, les entreprises qui exercent leurs activités à partir de comptes bancaires personnels ont maintenant accès aux prêts accordés dans le cadre du compte d'urgence pour entreprises canadiennes en ouvrant un compte commercial auprès d'une institution financière participante. En ce qui concerne les autres mesures, comme la subvention salariale et la subvention pour le loyer, on va déposer un projet de loi sous peu. J'espère que tous les députés de la Chambre des communes se joindront à nous pour adopter cette mesure d'aide cruciale pour les entreprises canadiennes. I'd like to end this morning by taking a moment to recognize all of the women and men across the country who keep Canadians fed. Our government is here to support them just like we have been since the start of the pandemic. Today, Minister Bibeau will outline how people in BC can apply for the Emergency On-Farm Support Fund. People in other provinces will also be able to apply soon. Le Fonds d'urgence pour les mesures de soutien à la ferme de 35 millions de dollars est déployé province par province pour aider les exploitants agricoles et assurer la santé et la sécurité des travailleurs agricoles d'ensemble du pays. La ministre Bibeau va en parler plus longuement plus tard aujourd'hui, mais on va continuer de faire notre part afin de soutenir les gens qui travaillent fort pour nous permettre de nourrir nos familles.
Treaty is a fancy word for promise, and being inclusive means that you respect promises you make to anybody, regardless of whether they're from a different culture than yourself or not. So inclusivity is part and parcel of the treaty understanding.
Treaties are our history textbooks, and treaties have helped me to understand how much precious culture that I have lost.
We are all treaty people.
The idea about reconciliation is to somehow to know and understand about the way Indigenous peoples have been mistreated in the history of Canada.
You know, truth and reconciliation gives you a path to go somewhere. Unless you stay on that path, you're never going to get where you want to go.
Over the past few days, we've seen record cases of COVID-19 across the country, and it's a cause for concern. Behind each new number is a friend, a parent, a neighbor, or a senior. People's lives are at stake, and we all need to do our part. So follow your local public health guidelines, wear a mask, and keep a safe 2-meter distance from one another, and download the COVID Alert app. It's easy, it's free, and with over 4.8 million downloads, it'll help you do your part to protect your friends and loved ones. Together, we will get through this. Au cours des derniers jours, nous avons enregistré des nombres records de cas de COVID-19 un peu partout au pays. La situation est inquiétante et il faut la prendre au sérieux. Chaque nouveau cas, ce n'est pas seulement un chiffre ou une statistique, c'est un ami, un membre de notre famille, un voisin ou une personne âgée. Quand la vie des gens est en jeu, il est important de tous faire notre part. Continuer de suivre les directives locales de santé publique, porter un masque, respecter la distance sécuritaire de 2 mètres et télécharger l'application gratuite Alerte COVID. Since the pandemic started, many folks have found themselves working from home. And in cases where they've needed to self-isolate, most Canadians have been able to do so because they have a roof over their heads. But imagine if you didn't have a home, especially during a Canadian winter. Sadly, that's the reality for far too many Canadians, and our government is taking action to change that. Since 2015, we've created a national strategy to make housing a priority, with thousands of units constructed and provided affordable housing for over 1 million people. We took this issue seriously since forming government, and now that the pandemic has made housing needs more acute, we're stepping up again. Last month, Minister Hussen announced an investment of $1 billion for the new Rapid Housing Initiative. The goal of the program is to give the most vulnerable a safe place to live by quickly creating up to 3,000 new affordable housing units. Today, I can share more details about how this funding will be used. The Rapid Housing Initiative will be equally split between the major cities stream and the projects stream. Right now, our largest cities face a growing need for safe and affordable housing. We're investing $500 million for immediate support to build long-term housing for municipalities that have the highest demand. We've also opened up applications for the second half of funding through the projects stream. Today's announcement is part of our commitment to eliminate chronic homelessness in Canada, as we announced in the throne speech, while also creating good jobs in the housing and construction sectors. Aujourd'hui, j'annonce que notre plan d'1 milliard de dollars pour soutenir les Canadiens vulnérables dans le cadre de l'initiative pour la création rapide de logements sera divisé en deux volets, le volet Grande Ville et le volet Projet. En ce moment, nos plus grandes villes font face à une demande croissante pour des logements sûrs et abordables. Nous investissons donc 500 millions de dollars dans l'aide immédiate à la construction de logements à long terme pour les municipalités où la demande est la plus forte. La deuxième moitié du montant ira pour le volet projet, qui acceptera des demandes pour les municipalités, les provinces et les territoires, ainsi que pour les organisations sans but lucratif et les corps dirigeants autochtones. L'annonce d'aujourd'hui s'inscrit dans notre engagement à éliminer l'itinérance chronique au Canada, comme nous l'avons annoncé dans le discours du trône, tout en créant de bons emplois dans les secteurs du logement et de la construction. Canada is now in the second wave of this pandemic. That comes with new challenges for small business owners, and as I told the Canadian Chamber of Commerce yesterday, we're stepping up to help, as we have since day one. Earlier this month, we announced that we would strengthen the programs that have been a lifeline for small businesses by introducing an extended wage subsidy, which covers up to 65% of eligible wages. Business owners like Steve and Cami of Steve's Poke Bar in BC will be able to keep their employees on the payroll. For support on rent, the new Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy will go directly to businesses, not to landlords. And those who have to close temporarily because of a local public health order will be eligible for an additional 25% support. That brings the total of 90% of rent covered for the hardest hit businesses. And to help cover other costs, we've expanded the eligibility for the Canada Emergency Business Account while increasing the total amount to $60,000. Depuis hier, les entreprises qui exercent leurs activités à partir de comptes bancaires personnels ont maintenant accès aux prêts accordés dans le cadre du compte d'urgence pour entreprises canadiennes en ouvrant un compte commercial auprès d'une institution financière participante. En ce qui concerne les autres mesures, comme la subvention salariale et la subvention pour le loyer, on va déposer un projet de loi sous peu. J'espère que tous les députés de la Chambre des communes se joindront à nous pour adopter cette mesure d'aide cruciale pour les entreprises canadiennes. I'd like to end this morning by taking a moment to recognize all of the women and men across the country who keep Canadians fed. Our government is here to support them just like we have been since the start of the pandemic. Today, Minister Bibeau will outline how people in BC can apply for the Emergency On-Farm Support Fund. People in other provinces will also be able to apply soon. Le fonds d'urgence pour les mesures de soutien à la ferme de 35 millions de dollars est déployé province par province pour aider les exploitants agricoles et assurer la santé et la sécurité des travailleurs agricoles d'ensemble du pays. La ministre Bibeau va en parler plus longuement plus tard aujourd'hui. Mais on va continuer de faire notre part afin de soutenir les gens qui travaillent fort pour nous permettre de nourrir nos familles. Merci Perrin. Bonjour tout le monde. Merci Perrin pour cette introduction et pour votre leadership à titre de président et PDG de la Chambre de commerce du Canada. Je tiens à saluer tous les gens de partout au pays qui assistent à cet événement avec nous. Même si on n'est pas réunis en personne, c'est une bonne chose qu'on puisse participer ensemble à l'activité aujourd'hui. I've had the chance to speak to many of you before in chambers of commerce and boards of trade right across the country. And whether it was in Toronto in 2019 or in Vancouver in 2014, we could never have predicted the way this year would turn our lives upside down. What we did know then, and what we've been reminded of today, is that Canadian businesses have what it takes to succeed no matter what the world throws at you. After all, being a business owner is all about overcoming challenges, getting that first loan, reaching that first customer, making that first big deal. Now, more than ever, we need that innovative attitude. We need people like you who see a challenge and ask not just how to overcome it, but how to turn it into an opportunity. Il n'y a aucun doute que cette crise mondiale rend la vie très difficile pour les entrepreneurs, les travailleurs et l'industrie. Mais avec des gens comme vous qui font preuve d'initiative, je sais qu'on va pouvoir passer à travers. La semaine dernière, j'ai eu la chance de parler avec Paul et Carl de Chez Couleur Chocolat en Gaspésie. Comme pour bien d'autres, la pandémie pose de grandes difficultés à leur entreprise. Mais avec agilité, ils se sont adaptés à la situation, notamment en saisissant les opportunités inattendues qu'ont été l'augmentation du tourisme en Gaspésie et de l'appétit renouvelé pour les produits locaux. C'est cette envie de toujours s'améliorer et d'innover qui fait que les entreprises sont si importantes pour notre économie et nos communautés. Elles nous poussent à toujours mieux faire. Over the last few weeks, I've been speaking with small business owners everywhere, from Louisbourg, Nova Scotia to St. Jacobs, Ontario. They've told me some incredible stories about retooling to make PPE, moving their business online to keep serving their community, and going that extra mile for their employees. But they've also told me that they couldn't have done it alone. No one should face the pandemic of the century by themselves. Not workers, not families, not business owners. And that's why, right from day one, our government stepped up to help. Durant la première vague, on a instauré les mesures économiques les plus importantes de notre époque, des mesures qui ont aidé des millions de travailleurs et de propriétaires d'entreprises. Maintenant, on entre dans la deuxième vague, et je sais que vous êtes préoccupés par ce qui vous attend. Mais une chose est certaine, on a été là pour vous durant la première vague et on va être là pour vous tout au long de la crise. Earlier this month, we announced that we would strengthen the major programs that have been a lifeline for so many businesses. The extended wage subsidy, covering up to 65% of eligible wages until December, will help keep workers on the payroll. The new Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy will go directly to businesses. And those who've had to close temporarily because of a local public health order will be eligible for an additional 25% support. That brings the total to 90% of rent covered for the hardest hit businesses. To help with other costs, we've expanded eligibility for the Canada Emergency Business Account while increasing the total amount to $60,000. I know that people need this support as soon as possible. So as of today, I'm happy to announce that businesses operating out of a personal banking account can now access CEBA loans. This was a promise our government made to small businesses, and today we can announce that it is available through the larger financial institutions. Over the coming days, smaller financial institutions will also be ready to accept applications. For the other measures, the rent and wage subsidy, will be tabling legislation soon. I hope parliamentarians will support the swift passage of this critical new help for small businesses. There's a reason that the plan we laid out in the throne speech includes working with you as a key pillar of our approach. There's a reason we committed to support job-creating businesses through this second wave and beyond. Businesses, especially small businesses, are the lifeblood of our communities and the backbone of our economy. So in addition to measures like expanding CEBA and extending the wage subsidy, we'll also improve the Business Credit Availability Program and introduce further support for industries that have been hardest hit. Cette pandémie est difficile pour tout le monde, mais elle est pire pour certains. On ne peut pas laisser cette crise faire régresser les progrès réalisés pour les femmes, autant à titre de travailleuses que d'entrepreneurs. C'est pourquoi nous investissons pour offrir du soutien aux entreprises dirigées par des femmes par le biais du Fonds d'aide et de relance régionale et nous accélérons la stratégie pour les femmes en entrepreneuriat. On ne pourra pas continuer d'aller de l'avant si l'élan des femmes est freiné. Dans les mois à venir, pour aider les entreprises à reprendre leurs activités et à rester actives, on doit réfléchir et agir comme une équipe. Il suffit de regarder ce qu'on peut accomplir ensemble en prenant l'exemple de l'application Alerte COVID. Plusieurs entreprises l'ont déjà mise en place en travaillant avec leurs employés. Il faut continuer d'aller dans cette direction. Après tout, la meilleure chose qu'on puisse faire pour l'économie, c'est de protéger la santé de la population. In the throne speech and in the announcements we've made since, our government has laid out an ambitious plan. The situation demands nothing less. But I know some people are asking how we'll make this all happen. I don't have to tell you that low interest rates mean we can afford this. I don't have to tell you that doing less would end up costing far more because it would mean a slower recovery and bigger deficits in the long run. We'll keep doing whatever it takes, as long as it takes, to bridge Canadians and Canada, as well as Canadian businesses, through this crisis. But this is not forever. Beyond the emergency, we'll need to build back better in a fiscally sustainable way. We came into this crisis with the best balance sheet and the strongest fiscal position of any of our peers, and because of the resilience of Canadian businesses and the significant action our government took early on, Canada's recovery has been faster and stronger than many of our allies. Just look at the numbers. 76% of jobs lost at the start of this pandemic have now been recovered. In September alone, almost 380,000 positions were added to the economy. We still have work to do, and this second wave is bringing new challenges, but we're on the right track. And together, I know that we will keep moving forward. The path ahead won't always be easy. There will be challenges, there will be tough days, and there's a tough winter ahead. But there will also be better times in our future. Il faut lutter sans relâche contre cette pandémie, et je sais que les gens comme vous sont à la hauteur. Ensemble, on va traverser cette crise. Et ensemble, on va bâtir un Canada plus fort et plus prospère pour tous. Merci beaucoup, tout le monde.
Online, on the phone, and in person, we are transforming the way we do business to provide all Canadians with the benefits and services they need. Every year, and from every corner of the country, we help deliver more than $120 billion in benefits and interact with Canadians over 140 million times a year. We're committed to giving Canadians what you want, a world-class experience, delivering benefits and services when you need them, accurate and consistent service no matter where you live, a resolution to your issues the first time you contact us, 100% accessibility with digital by choice everywhere, and we continue to improve. Planning a trip? We offer passport services at more than 300 Service Canada centres across Canada. We've also cut employment insurance wait periods in half, and more Canadians are receiving the Guaranteed Income Supplement and Old Age Security through automatic enrollment. But we're not stopping there. We're developing digital tools that will give you access to our services 24/7. You will have the flexibility of using our services wherever you are, any time of day, through a user-friendly mobile application. Our service transformation is also about a different way of working. It's about listening to Canadians, asking them how they want to access our programs and benefits. It's also about designing, building, and testing solutions with our clients and employees, and delivering easy-to-use digital services. This is just the beginning of the work we are doing to create an awesome service experience supported by modern and convenient tools that both employees and Canadians want to use. To find out more about the ESTC service strategy and how we are transforming the way we do business, click the link below the video.
My name is Jill Roberts. I'm a passport officer. I work at the St. John's location in Newfoundland. I found out the need to help process CERB applications mainly when we close for the public. So we went from administering 30 to 35 passports a day to only going based on an urgent need. And then of course, once the CERB opened up, this was a program that had no employees prior to this, as it was really set up as a response to the pandemic. So it kind of made sense for us who were displaced a little bit with our daily routine, because of course the CERB needed employees as well. A lot of times people are just so grateful to be able to talk to a person, have someone walk their concerns through with them, break down, just having that kind of contact, to have someone feel so reassured after making contact with them and knowing that you were kind of able to affect their day for the better, it makes it worth it for me.
Canadians are living longer. In fact, you could spend more than 30 years in retirement. It's important to know how you'll fund it and how the Canada Pension Plan, CPP, retirement pension can help. If you worked in Canada between the ages of 18 and 70 and you paid into the CPP, you're eligible for the retirement pension. The more you worked, earned, and contributed, the more you'll get. The standard age to start receiving your retirement pension is 65, but you can choose to take it any time after you reach age 60. The later you take it, the more money you'll get each month. In fact, you could more than double your pension if you wait the 10 years until age 70. Once you start receiving your pension, it will give you monthly payments for the rest of your life. These payments increase each year with the cost of living. The CPP isn't meant to meet all your financial needs in retirement. It works with old age security to provide a modest financial base that you can build on with your savings and other income. So, how much will you receive from the CPP? You can get an estimate of what your monthly CPP payment will be through your My Service Canada account. You can also use the Canadian Retirement Income Calculator to get an estimate of your overall retirement income. For more information on the CPP and to apply online, visit canada.ca/CPP.
Hey everyone, it is Farmhand Mike, and I am back out at Convoy Dairy Farm near Convoy, Ohio, with Hull Ag Services as they are chopping the 2020 corn crop here. Hull Ag Services currently runs a John Deere 9800i forage harvester, but